Mm-hmm. Do. Hi, everybody on YouTube. What is going on? We are going to have a great night tonight. Melinda Leslie is here. She is literally one of my favorite people in ufology. And I will tell you this. A lot of people don't know this about Melinda, but if you ever meet her at a conference, she gives the best hugs. She is a hugger, and she gives fantastic hugs. So if you get that opportunity, you want to take that. Believe you me. We're efforting and waiting for Daniel Sheehan to join us on this show tonight. It's a little bit of an extra special gift for all of you listening in. If you don't know who Daniel Sheehan is, well, let's just say he was a lawyer during Watergate. He is an activist. He is helping bring the disclosure movement. He's working with Luis Elizondo. He's working with Chris Mellon, and we are going to bring him with you or to you as well. Before we get anything going here, let's give the big rundown as we do each and every night here on the show. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. Nicola in silver. Andrew takes home a nice bronze medal for him. Not Jan Yannick. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. Typical Watch, thanks for joining us. The gorgeous and talented Cosmic Fleur is here. Hello, Cosmic. Sassy Sandra and Typical Watch, nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming on in. Scrolling on down, Jack Clark and the lovely and talented Laura Stevens. Laura Stevens, by the way, will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio. And ladies and gentlemen, she does not like eye contact, so make sure you don't make eye contact and she will sign for you. Shutdown, welcome to our channel for the first time. Thank you so much. At least I think this is your first time here. If it's your second or third, welcome back. Tommy Ireland, what's happening, man? Thank you for coming on in. Appreciate you. Sultry Susie, Monolith, good to have you here. And let's see here. Who else is here? Jack Clark. Razzle Tazzle is here, everyone. Razzle Tazzle. Yes, she will tazzle your razzle. Why? Because she's Razzle Tazzle. Big Pickle is here. Thank you for joining us. Big Pickle will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the left of the studio, to the left. Hi, Nikki. How are you? Greg Moyes, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Millennium and Luftaug, how you doing? Super Ben from UFO Garage. If you're not subscribed to UFO Garage yet on YouTube, you are missing on out. Yes, you are. Fabster, thanks for coming here, man. Ozzy, sister, good to see you. Steve Stockton from KPNL, always a pleasure to have you here, my brother. How are you? Mozart, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Ozzy, oi to you. Gorgeous Helena, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you. UFO Toronto, thanks for joining us again on Twitter. Appreciate you. Ruth Ann, I always butcher your name. Amartafio. Ruth Ann Amartafio is here. She's looking lovely tonight. She's our favorite Ruth Ann in the world, people, in the world. Michael Lastuca Nucker, good to see you. Hey, Cherry Pepsi Mike, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Really do appreciate you tuning on in, man. I know you're excited for this one, so thank you for that. Gorgeous Jules, thank you for coming on in. Always love having you here. Richard Elmore and $5,900. Good to see you guys. Middle child, Zach Martin. Thanks for joining us. The gorgeous Kim Jellin is here, along with George Hernandez. He's looking gorgeous as well. Yes, George, take a bow for us if you don't mind. The lovely and talented Nicole Sakich is here. Yes, she is the Illinois goddess herself. That's the way she titles herself. Oh, look who's here. Daniel Sheehan's here.
I'm going to get the sound on.
Hey!
All right.
There you are. All right. We're just saying hello to everyone here. Jose, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. And Jeffrey DeRuin, thank you for joining us. Cedric, good to see you. And Rich Hilke, thanks for coming on in. Uncle Dale and his power stash are here. Remember, if you're in Austin, Texas, and you find Uncle Dale's power stash, rub it for good luck. Apparently, it's good for 7 days. That's just what I'm hearing.
And we're getting a tour of the Sheehan estate, I think.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Focus, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. And yeah, we're caught up. Gorgeous Kira, thank you for joining us. Sinister Vax and Robert Dixon, good to have you guys here. Thank you for the belated birthday wishes from yesterday.
Oh,
Really,
happy birthday, Dave.
thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dave. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I don't claim to be able to sing.
All right. Daniel, Melinda, I'm going to get you to hold on right here because we're going to introduce the show and get things going here in 5 seconds. I lied. 20 seconds. All right. SJ, Media Fox, thanks for coming on in. Carrie Bradshaw, first time in our chat room. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Will Aldridge, good to see you. A great way to support what we do, everyone, is hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, because we are here 7 days a week, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific. Thank you to Fabster and to Cherry Pepsi Mike for the super chats. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a double bill for you tonight. Melinda Leslie is a researcher and investigator out of Sedona, Arizona. She's been in the field of ufology for 27 plus years. Melinda is a UFO abductee and has been public with her known extraterrestrial and covert human abductions experiences for 26 years and has researched a military and intelligence agency involvement in UFO abduction cases for the last quarter century. Both her research and personal experiences have been featured in 19 books, numerous documentaries by prominent authors and directors in ufology. And tonight we are also, and we got to thank Melinda for this, we're very proud for the first time to have lawyer and activist Daniel Sheehan coming on to SOR for the first time. His resume literally says it all, as he is all in on pressuring the United States government on releasing what they know about unidentified aerial phenomena. Daniel and Melinda, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Really do appreciate your time.
Terrific. Good to be here, David.
Melinda, your mute is on. And we got you now.
Okay, so, big fail already. Sorry. I'm just kidding. Dan, thanks so much for coming on last minute. And Dave, thanks so much for having us on.
All right. I want to get to it right off the bat here because there's no need for introductions tonight. We are entering 1 month today when a very important document or documents could be released from the Pentagon. And you guys are really kicking things off with this because there's a lot of people who think they're in the know. There are very few who are actually in the know. So, Melinda, I want to start with you because we had you scheduled earlier. What the heck is going on here? Are we getting closer to disclosure, or is this one big game?
Well, it depends on what you call disclosure. I'm sure Dan will have some stuff to chime in on this, but in my view, it depends on what you call disclosure. Are we getting some disclosure? Heck yeah, and I think we'll get the report. for the audience out there, without taking too much time to go into it, because we got a whole show ahead of us, is I had a long conversation over an hour yesterday, actually day before yesterday, with Jim Semivan, and he is the director of To the Stars Academy. I think everybody knows that, and I've had a unique position of being able to have personal conversations with him. I met him through a client who came on my tours, for those that don't know, and we developed a friendship. But I'm going to quote him. He was telling me, no doubt at all, that we will get a report, and it will be a public report. Now, initially, and he did say this, though. He said it's very likely, and I know Dan will have lots to say about this, it's likely to take longer, beyond the 25th, because he was explaining the whole intelligence process and the amount of vetting and checking and backing up of the data and gathering any evidence they want to release and those decisions and everything. And he said it's likely, if not the task force to request more time, it is likely that the DNI, or the ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, is likely to request more time because the amount of information to be put together. But according to Semivan, now I want everyone to know it's not like I necessarily hang on everything he says as the gospel truth, of course not. But he is in a position to know, possibly, because of his connections and his involvement in the story from the get-go, that he says we will get a report, we will get a public report, and that it just might take a little longer. But he is suggesting it won't take a lot longer. He is saying July, and or close to it. He is saying it shouldn't take a whole lot of time, but he is saying they're likely to request more time, and again, that we will get something public. And
right.
and the DNI is likely to request more time. Now, I know Dan has stuff to say about this, so that's just what I'm saying. I heard from him, and it could be open for debate whether he's in a position to know those things, but I would say he probably is.
All right, let's bring in Daniel Sheehan here, legendary lawyer in the United States, legendary activist. He's been on the UFO front for well over 30 years and trying to get the information out there. Dan, do you think you're getting closer to finally getting that information out?
Well, closer, yes. By comparison to how bad they were before. I mean, they were the Defense Department and the Central Intelligence Agency and the National Security State Bureaucracy had an official policy for many decades to not only lie flagrantly about this, but to attempt to suppress anybody who tried to talk about it, including completely innocent civilians who had direct contact experiences with these UFOs, who videoed them. And what happened is the National Security State Bureaucracy, ranging all the way from the Defense Department and their special operations people to the CIA and the NSA, they would actively attempt to destroy the reputation and credibility of people who were trying to simply convey to the world an experience they had. And now it's quite clear that at least some important elements inside the Defense Department, at least, have made a decision that, given a series of circumstances, which we'll talk about here this evening, they have decided that they are going to acknowledge that UFOs are real. They used to spend all of their time insisting that they were swamp gas or that they were reflections of lighthouse lights off the clouds, or they were some sort of optical illusion, or even a source of mass hallucinations, whatever that is. Anyway, they went on and on about this as a matter of policy. And now, because of some circumstances that have been developed here since basically 2017, the Defense Department has, for one reason or another, decided that it's going to publicly acknowledge that UFOs are actually real. That is, that they are real, hard knock-on-them vehicles that are flying throughout our country and around the world. That they have been clocked up to 43,000 miles an hour, functioning at some 600 Gs, and which is just so completely astronomically beyond anything that that our country has developed, or at best our intelligence is that Russia or China or India or any of the other major countries that have a space program have even come close to developing. And so that they're acknowledging now that there are craft that are performing these types of functions that can come from 80,000 feet up in the air down to within 50 feet of the surface of the ocean in less than 1 second, and then submerge and travel at 100 knots under the water. Now, this is something that the Defense Department has explicitly acknowledged is taking place, and so they're doing this in the context of a series of things. Number one, there were the activities of Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon. They were two deeply placed people in the national security state infrastructure. Lou was the director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Project that was inside the United States Pentagon. Chris Mellon was the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. They were both in positions to have been briefed in on some portions of what was known by the Defense Department about this phenomenon. And they both retired and left the government, officially at least, and joined with others, Hal Puthoff, Jim Simi-Van, and a number of others, Steve Justice. They formed a thing called the To the Stars Academy, and they took active steps to release 3 videos that were gun camera video footage that were taken by F-18s flying off the USS Nimitz of a set of different craft that were performing these types of extraordinary moves. They would be going like 13,000 miles an hour in one direction, and they would turn at a complete right angle and accelerate away faster than they could even measure. And they're doing these things. And so that when these video copies were released by Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, they did this through Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, and they were published in the New York Times. Now, it's important to remember when officials from inside the national security state bureaucracy make a decision to release these things, this is extraordinarily important because they aren't going to be doing that unless they have been authorized to do it. So that not only was their decision to release these things, it's clear that the Defense Department had authorized the release of these videotapes. In addition to that, it's also clear that the people who are in charge of the UFO phenomenon and whatever is known about it, high up into the government structures, and including corporate structures, and Melinda and I will both explain that to the listeners, that there are corporations that have been put in possession of some of the material that has been recovered from some of these craft, and that they've been engaged in a long process of attempted back engineering of some of this technology. These include Lockheed Martin, Rockwell International, Boeing, and some others. These people have military defense contracts with the United States military, and they function under top secret security clearances, and they're involved in making these decisions as to what information is going to be allowed to be released. And almost certainly there is some super organization that exists that makes decisions about this unique area of public policy. Some people understand it to be the Majestic 12, a group that originated ostensibly with President Truman back in 1947, following the Roswell crash in New Mexico, and the recovery of not only the damaged craft, but also bodies of extraterrestrial beings. And at least according to some reports, one extraterrestrial being who survived. And that's clear. That's clear that there is such an organization that exists at the highest levels, and it is a unique, only quasi-governmental organization. It's made up of people who are in the military or who are political officials, but there are also corporate officials in there and scientists and others. Now, we don't know exactly who the progeny of that particular initial group are at the present time, but it's almost certain that there is some analogous group that is both inside and outside of our governmental structures, and they're the ones that make decisions like this. So the important thing to note is that virtually certainly that particular group has made a decision that the release of these videos and the release of statements from the Defense Department to the effect that UFOs are real, and describing in detail the nature of these, of what they're doing and the kind of speeds they attain and the kind of maneuverability they have and the type of structure of these crafts. This is the very first time in the 75 years of most of this information in current times that any statements like that have ever been made. And so as of the night of the 16th of December of 2017, when the New York Times released this information on their website, and the following morning when it was on the front page of the New York Times, we have entered into a very new phase of whatever it is that's going on with regard to the UFO phenomenon. There have been a series of decisions made at these different levels, all the way from the very top down through Defense Department, down through individuals such as Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and others, to come forward and tell the American public, and of course, therefore the world, that UFOs are real, and have been displaying not only these gun camera footage shots, but photographs that have been taken by U.S. pilots in F-18s carrying their own cameras inside their cockpit and taking photographs of these vehicles that are like no less than 100 yards away from them. I mean, like you could throw a rock at these things and hit them, And so these photographs are beyond dispute. That there's something flying in the area around our country, and there's this one more thing I think we want to say at the top of the show here. There is a conflict apparently still going on inside the national security state bureaucracy as to whether or not these kind of statements should be being made, how much information should be released about this, and whether or not these UFOs are to be treated as a matter of official policy as a threat to our national security or not. And now these are all topics that obviously we're going to be touching on tonight, but the fundamental dynamic that's going on now is that the To the Stars Academy group that was made up of these men are insisting upon portraying the UFO phenomenon not only as real, but as a threat to the national security of the United States for whatever reasons. But there are people, even within that group, who believe that this is wrong-headed, that it should not be being portrayed as a threat to the national security, because it's absolutely clear that top-ranking people in the Defense Department aren't treating it as a threat. They're not running around with their hair on fire. They're not trying to shoot these things down. They're not trying to keep them from coming into our airspace. But on the other hand, it's perfectly clear that these vehicles are flying over our quote warships. They're flying over the missile bases that we have. They've actually shut off missiles and rendered them inoperable. They have flown over the top of nuclear submarines. They have flown over the top of nuclear facilities. And so people from inside the national security state bureaucracy, who basically perceive everything to be a threat until they can prove otherwise, have an institutional perception that designates these as a threat to the national security of the United States. The only problem with that kind of a categorization is that nobody is treating them as though they are inside the national security state bureaucracy. So this is presenting kind of a puzzle. Why is this happening? Why is it that these things, these craft are doing the things they're doing, and yet inside the military, there does not seem to be any kind of persistent, coordinated program to treat them as though they're a threat to the national security. So this poses the questions that really at the top of our show here tonight that we have to really address. And we can have different opinions about them, but the most important thing is that we, as the private citizens of our country and of the world, are in the process of placing pressure through shows like this, Dave, and through other shows, are placing pressure on the members of the national security state to have to come forward with much more information than they may want to do. And on the other hand, because these agencies, such as the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency and others, are actively engaged in duplicity all the time, it's possible that they're wanting us to do exactly what we're doing, to give the impression that we're causing that pressure on the government to make them reveal things they don't want to. And really, in fact, there's some extremely sophisticated program going on pursuant to which they are releasing this information bit by bit, dribble by dribble, through some sort of process of feathering in this information to us. And so that those of us who are in the civilian population have to undertake really professional investigation to determine which of these options is really operative right now. Are we being manipulated? Are we actually part of a pressure program that is putting genuine pressure on the government to reveal things that they otherwise don't want to? What is it that's going on right now? Melinda, myself, Richard Dolan, Stephen Greer, Linda Bolton Howe, Grant Cameron. There's a whole bunch of us that have been involved in this, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, but there's a whole bunch of people that are in sort of the, I guess you can call us the senior class of the UFO investigators and researchers that are all working together now in a cooperative way to try to determine exactly what it is that's going on. And we have some recent recruits now that are coming out of the national security state infrastructure who are proffering themselves as allies. And we're in the process of trying to figure out how genuine that offer is. And we're going to treat them as though it is genuine. We're going to take them at their word to begin with and try to facilitate them achieving the objectives of getting this information out. But virtually all of us inside the UFO research community and activist community are pushing back against them, treating this or advertising the UFOs as a threat to national security, simply in order to get the Congress of the United States to have some official hearings. So those are, half a dozen major issues that are in front of us right now, and it's an extraordinarily interesting time in the history of this UFO phenomenon over the last 75 years. I would say that it's different, categorically different than any one of the other periods that we've all gone through together.
All right, we've got 40 seconds left before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have Melinda Leslie with us. We have legendary lawyer Daniel Sheehan with us tonight, and we are getting into the heart of ufology. What is happening right now? What is going to be happening on June 25th? Will that report be delayed? We hope not, but there is an opportunity and a chance that it may just well be that way. When we come back from the break here at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to ask these two a question that I've been asking a lot of guests lately. Why now? Why now, after 70 years of cover-ups, after 70 years of calling people crazy, of 70 years of being in denial? Why now? Melinda Leslie, Danny Sheehan, here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are very lucky to have them as we are within the 30 days of the big reveal right here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back right after this. All right, we're clear. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I'm going to grab a glass of water.
Sure, not a problem.
Be right back.
All right. Lots of stuff to get into.
Oh my goodness.
One thing Dan said when we come back, I'll ask him, which is not so much ask him, but just say, look, he made a bold statement just then about the photos and the videos being real. And of course, they're getting not a lot, but some blowback in the community from, from a couple squeaky wheels, about, about them. I just thought I'd ask him because he just made a statement saying, well, of course they're all real. And I'm like, well, there is some blowback, but I think because he's representing Lou, it'll be like, well, Dan certainly believes, obviously from a statement he just made, that they're real.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I don't need the proof. We've already had it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one thing we will get into is, for anyone listening online, I told Dave and Dan both separately that and both seem to agree that we want to get into tonight. What do we really know? Beyond this very surface level story we're getting about, the incursions into military airspace, and what would likely be in the initial report is kind of a reminder to the community of how deep this subject goes and what's really known, and I also tonight really wanted to stick to the facts and keep this very, very grounded. I know, Dave, you have your woo shows, and I can always come on and do abductions and MILABs, and of course to me that's very grounded stuff, but but tonight I know that I wanted to have it be a very grounded discussion.
Absolutely.
That's important. It's I think this subject is just so serious, and I think moving forward, if we're getting disclosure like it shows, or like Jim was saying, that in this community we need to be really, pragmatic and very grounded about it, because I think it'll become that important. And I think the voices in the community that are on the have less importance and fall away, and thus not be heard for their extremes, except for within the community. But I think obviously we're getting extreme media attention. Well, maybe this is something to talk about on the air. This might be important enough to wait until you come back on the
we'll wait until we come back on that one and go from there. I don't want to give up too much here. Mr. Sheehan, how long do we have you for tonight?
I'm here for a couple hours.
Okay, let's do it.
Twist our arms. Ow, ow.
You notice that was really hard. Okay, not a problem. Okay. When the legend speaks, here we go. We make it happen. Cable guy Matt, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. All right. Oh, let's see here. Half Johnny, good to have you back. I'm just saying hello to people in my chat room right now. Let's see.
I know, Dave, right before we went to break, you asked why, and I'm trying to find, because I know I asked Jim that, but my notes are pretty scribbled, and I'm trying to find what he had to say about that, but I will.
All right. We got about a minute. I want to say a big thank you to Andrew, Beverly, Catfish, Patrick, Cat Chaser, Sinister, Vax, Fapster, and Mike, the Cherry Pepsi Mike, for the awesome super chats. Really do appreciate the love and support you guys have for Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much. Hi, Jasper. Welcome to our chat room. How you doing? And Media Fox, good to see you. thank you for coming on in. And we're going to get going here in about 25 seconds. If you're new to our channel and wonder, hey, what's this all about? We are here 7 days a week, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when we are going to be live. It's a good reminder for you. And we're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. So sit back, relax, because this one's going to be awesome. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate having you tuning on in. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. Disclosure 2021. Is it happening? How is it happening? Why is it happening? We are joined tonight by legendary lawyer Daniel Sheehan and Melinda Leslie. Melinda, Daniel, welcome back.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
One of the big questions that we have been asking a lot of people over the last couple of months, and I think it's a question that has been overlooked by the mainstream media and many in the UFO field, is why now? We have had 70 years of cover-ups. We have had 70 years of being told it's swamp gas, 70 years of people being put down and laughed at and had fingers pointed at them, whether it's about seeing UFOs or whether it is about any sort of abduction phenomena. And I know you two are very familiar with that, but I'm wondering what changed, why now? Because after 70 years, I don't believe that it's just a few guys who got together with the Stars Academy who all of a sudden decided that this is something we need to do for the betterment of humankind. Melinda,
Dan, I was going to let Dan go first on that. You know,
okay. Sure. It's as I'd indicated in the first top part of the show, that the question as to what type of decisions have been made at what level of the national security state bureaucracy, and if there are levels above that of a group that is like Majestic 12. Or what they call the Zodiac group. If there is such a group, why they may have made a decision to move forward in this manner. So that's really the important thing. You can be almost certain that it's not happening willy-nilly. You know, it's not just happening by accident. It's not just happening because Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon made a unilateral decision to just release this information and weather the storm of any kind of retaliation against them. That's not likely to be what's happening here. Now, there's another thing that needs to be taken into account. There has been a dramatic increase in the number of UFO vehicles flying in broad daylight. Around that we have these incidents that occurred off the coast of the east coast of Virginia. There are more recent events off the southern coast of the west coast, off Baja, about 100 miles southwest of San Diego. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of these UFO vehicles that are being sighted. They're flying and approaching U.S. warships, approaching U.S. warplanes. Now, it's important for us to point this out. The United States Defense Department is going to assert that, for example, any UFO flying over one of our Minuteman silos and turning off the dozen or so nuclear war missiles that are there, is somehow a threat to our national security. Well, the fact of the matter is a dozen nuclear missiles loaded with multiple warheads aimed at civilian citizens in other people's countries is an absolute mortal sin. It has been designated so by the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops, the United States Jesuit Order, the National Board of Homeland Ministry of the National Methodist Church, and it is an absolute total violation of the just war theory, which prohibits the utilization of weapons of mass destruction against civilian populations. And it's clear that those missiles are that. So any force coming by and turning those off is hardly the aggressor, especially in light of the fact that they didn't destroy them permanently. They simply turned them off to demonstrate that they could do that. And also that you notice I pointed out that these craft are noted flying near our warships. You know, our warships are deployed all over the planet. The United States has over 800 military bases around the world. You know, our defense budget, so-called defense budget, which is an offense budget, is in fact larger than the other 10 nations that are the closest to us, all combined together. And we who live in the heart of the Roman Empire don't seem to be cognizant of that. We aren't aware of how the rest of the world perceives us as this overarchingly menacing military power on the planet. And the fact of the matter is that when President Gorbachev of the Soviet Union consciously withdrew from the Cold War back on December 31st of 1991, the immediate response of the George H.W. Bush administration under its Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, went into a series of meetings with Paul Wolfowitz, the deputy, and Doug Feith, and Scooter Libby, and Elliot Abrams, and others. And they immediately resolved that, well, now that the Soviet Union has stepped back from the Cold War, that gives us an opportunity to establish full spectrum dominance over the entire planet so that we can maintain continued privileged access to the strategic raw materials that are needed by our industry. Now that is an attitude on the part of all of these, quote, warships, nuclear war fighting missile bases, and all of that. And so that you got to understand the state of mind, the mentality that's represented by that type of an offensive military installation. And so that any type of a vehicle coming by and looking at these places or trying to figure out what in the world they're doing to be perceived as a hostile act or as a threat to our national security. It's not a threat to our national security. It's a threat to our national ability to impose insecurity on everybody else in the world, is what it is. So it's extremely important to have a clear perception of what it is that these vehicles have been recorded as doing. They're not destroying anybody. They're not attacking anybody. They're not engaging in any kind of aggressive, hostile activity. What they're doing is they're observing the warlike activities that the United States government is engaged in many other countries. Now, so now that's an important thing for us to keep in mind here. And so the question arises is, what type of activities might these UFO vehicles be engaged in that has become accelerated? That they're increasingly showing themselves, they're increasingly making appearances, and there are many people. You talk to Barbara Lamb, for example. Barbara Lamb is one of the great treasures of the UFO community. She has counseled literally hundreds and hundreds of people who have had close encounters with extraterrestrial beings in their own good faith. They believe that they've had this experience, and she says that over 70% of these people report that these beings are communicating to them that you people have to stop allowing nuclear weapons to be deployed on your planet, and you have to stop polluting your planet. It's ruining your climatic system. You're going to go through this whole process of global climate change. It's going to destroy your economy and your culture. So that the messages of these beings are eminently peaceful, but that is viewed as a threat by the national security state because it's interfering with their mission of establishing full spectrum dominance over the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Melinda, let's get your opinion on that.
Okay, that was an interesting point there, Dan. That that it's the threat is to their dominance as opposed to. But Dan, as you're saying that, I can't help but wonder: are they using threat just to get everyone to take it seriously, like to take the language to the American people, the people of the world, certainly to the rest of the government? Unfortunately, this is rolling out this form of disclosure we're getting from, like you just said, a militaristic point of view. It's coming from the military. The task force is at the Pentagon. It's run by the ONI. We're going through, the intelligence community. We're going through the Navy. But unfortunately, that's how we're getting it. So they're using that language and coming out that way. But isn't that in part just so that everyone takes it seriously? I mean, I hear what you're saying, Dan, and I think you have a very valid point, but I'm just saying, is a lot of this something that we are making more of than we need to, only in that they're using the language so that everyone takes it seriously?
Yeah, but that's a dangerous game. That's a dangerous game. To hold the Congress of the United States in such low regard that the national security state bureaucracy and the executive branch doesn't believe that it can trust them by having an honest and open conversation about the extraordinary range of information that we have about this extraterrestrial civilization, and that we have to treat them like idiots, who are children, who unless you scare them, they won't do anything. And I'm not saying that's not without some support, but the bottom line is, if you talk to a lot of these people who are involved in this process within the national security state infrastructure, they will tell you that, look, the only way to get Congress to respond, to hold hearings of any kind of a serious nature about the UFO phenomenon, is to present it as though it were a potential threat to the national security of the United States. And they don't even think that they can present it yet as a threat from an extraterrestrial civilization. They are hinting over and over again, both ways. Well, it could be Russia. It could be China. They even go so far as say it could be India, that actually has developed this breakthrough technology. But I don't think any of them believe that.
Is that a stalling game until the report comes out? I keep just wondering if that's kind of stalling to see what, the information that eventually comes out in this report. So they have to stall and say, we don't know before they say off-world technology.
No, I don't believe that there's a 1% chance that the report that is going to be going in from the UAP task force from the Office of Naval Intelligence is going to say, oh, we believe that these are off-world vehicles. Even though that was said, as you know, in the original hearings that took place in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee that were closed-door hearings, the people from the task force said that a substantial number of them in the task force do believe that the most likely hypothesis about these vehicles is that they are off-world vehicles that have come from some other planetary system. That is what they've said. Now, but that's totally in private, and it's not likely that they're going to put that into any kind of a report that is going to be made public. And it's extremely important to recognize that the existence of an extraterrestrial civilization that has technology of the type that is being displayed presents not just a threat to the superiority of our United States military and its ability to impose full spectrum dominance over the entire planet, it absolutely evaporates that capacity. That this technology that is being displayed is so far in advance of what has been acknowledged to be available to our military forces that that they would, to stop short and perceive it just as a threat to our national security is absurd. It means that our culture needs to change almost paradigmatically to adjust to this new level of technology, into the existence of an extraterrestrial civilization. And it's absolutely clear that people who are in positions of power, in positions of authority, don't want that to happen, because that undermines their position of authority. In the military, in the national security state bureaucracy, you view their role as preserving that power elite. That's exactly what's going on. Their job is to maintain the power elite in positions of power. That's what they view their mission to be. So any threat that exists to that elite governing authority is viewed as a task for the military to try to figure out how to handle it. But that is not acknowledged. That's not acknowledged by the military authorities. They're never going to say our job is to protect the elite ruling class. They're going to say, oh, we're here to protect the American people. You know, that we have the American people preyed upon by these beings that are kidnapping people and performing physical exams on them and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what they're doing.
Dan, excuse me, Dave, sorry. As Lou's attorney, has he given you any, like, what has Lou said about why now? And I know he's going to be on with Dave tomorrow night, and Dave can ask him that question. But I was wondering, you know, if you can reflect on that, and Chris too, because you're talking to both. What do Lou and Chris say about why now?
Well, it's important for both Lou and Chris to be able to speak for themselves. And the advantage that we have here tonight is that Lou is going to be on your show tomorrow night, Dave. And so
yes,
you ask him that. But I do not believe that Lou has been briefed in on what the decision was at the higher levels to come out and acknowledge that UFOs are real. I don't think he's been briefed in on that, because he has been targeted by people inside the Defense Department, not only denying that UFOs are real still, but denying that there was any such thing as the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Project, and denying that Lou Elizondo had any relationship with any such organization. So that there's still a great deal of contradiction going on inside the Defense Department itself from different departments. Part of our responsibility in pursuing the complaint that has been filed by Lou with the Inspector General is to clarify what the official policy of the Defense Department is. You know, who is it that are contravening the official policy? Is it the people that are accusing Lou of being a liar and having nothing to do with such an organization, or is it the people who are saying that the UFOs are real? Who's out of line here, and who is drawing the line? Who is authoring the line? That's what we need to find out about. And we believe that it's the proper responsibility in response to the complaint that Lou has filed for the Inspector General to find the answer to these questions. Yes. And I don't think Lou has the answer to these questions yet. And that's why he's frustrated. He was put in charge of figuring out what's going on, and he wasn't being briefed in by the highest officials. He wasn't being told all these things. And now he's being called a liar for even trying to reveal what little he can reveal, which is not even classified.
Yeah. On that same note, you know, Dan, you and I had a very interesting conversation yesterday on the phone, and you helped clarify, and maybe for this audience that either may not know or could have some confusion, much like I did, about defining that it's one complaint to the Inspector General's U.S. Inspector IG office, but it's broken into 3 sections, and what you and what you're helping Lou with in what you guys want to accomplish with the 3 sections. Can you define that at all, like you did yesterday on the phone with me?
We got 4.5 minutes before our break.
All right.
Oh, that's perfect.
I'll do it quickly. Look at that. Lou Elizondo has filed a complaint with the Inspector General's office, a single complaint. In the complaint, he has laid out a lot of the things that he has said publicly before having filed the complaint. And therefore, he's perfectly at liberty to talk about what he had previously said publicly. complaining about what was going on inside the Defense Department. And he will do so, I'm sure, again on your show tomorrow night, Dave. The Inspector General's office has asked us not to talk about specifically what Lou said in his complaint, but you can have a fairly high level of confidence that it's very similar to what he has been saying publicly before having filed the complaint. Now, what happens is when a complaint is filed with the Inspector General, it goes to a thing they call the hotline desk. And the hotline desk is responsible for determining which of the subdepartments inside the Inspector General's office has jurisdiction over the complaint. And the breadth of the accusations that were being made by Lou prior to filing his complaint were so broad that there are a number of different departments inside the Inspector General's office that have been deemed to be relevant to looking into this. And so there are more than one. There's actually 3 different investigations that are going on inside the office. Now, in fact, they will hasten to say that, well, they haven't reached the point of having a full-scale investigation yet. What they're in the process of doing is evaluating his complaint to really determine exactly what it is he is saying, who the witnesses are that can verify the things that he's asserting, who are the people that were involved in doing any alleged wrongdoing in the defense. All of that is going on right now. But one of the investigations that is going on is an investigation to ascertain whether or not the Defense Department has a policy that they've been engaged in that is unlawful, that are lying to the American people in a way that is completely dysfunctional, is contrary to our constitutional order, and that they've been involved in heaping retribution on people who are trying to tell the truth, and in fact have gone to the lengths of destroying the lives of innocent Americans, who have been simply having an encounter with the UFO and have tried to report it to their fellow citizens. These are we aren't highly confident that the Inspector General's office is going to undertake a bona fide investigation of any of these questions. But our job as citizens is to make them do their job, no matter how much they don't want to do it. No internal inspector in any kind of department really wants to reveal the dirty laundry about that department because they feel they're part of it. But that's the Inspector General's job. That's the challenge they have as Inspector Generals, to find out what's gone wrong inside a department like that and who's responsible for it. That's our job, is to try to make them do their job.
Well, and will this have a back door then in putting the pressure on the DOD to provide the information to the task force in any way? I mean, do you think this helps do that?
I believe that the Defense Department is so rigidly compartmentalized, and they're so used to being compartmentalized, that you're going to get an excuse out of them that is very similar to the excuse that was made by the law enforcement people over 9/11. Oh, the FBI didn't know what the CIA knew. The CIA didn't know what the FBI knew. The NSA knew things that neither one of them knew. They're going to try to pretend that this entire obfuscation that's been going on the part of the national security state is somehow a function of the lack of coordination among the different departments. But the reality is there's been a very, very high level coordinating committee that is responsible for making these decisions, and they have made decisions to intentionally obfuscate and confuse people about this issue. The question is, why did they do that? And who is it that made those decisions? And is this legal or is this not legal? That's the question that we have posed now before us.
All right, I'm going to get you guys to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. When we come back, who gave the thumbs up to let this out? Who gave it up? That's the big question we are going to ask next with Melinda Leslie and Daniel Sheehan here on Spaced Out Radio as we enter hour number 2. Was it former President Trump? Was it former President Obama? Was it current President Biden? Let's find out when we return for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Disclosure 2021. Is it happening? Is it not? What are we going to get on June 25th? It's a big day if you're a UFO fan coming on up. We are 30 days away. Spaced Out Radio continues with Melinda and Danny right after this on the Mighty SOR.
Well, I'd bet good money that what we're going to get on the 25th is a delay.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to quickly run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. All right.
You guys can talk to the audience.
And Dave, I haven't really given additional theories to why I think we're getting it now, and I just want to throw it out there.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Additional theory.
Absolutely. 1 second here.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm terrific.
Good. I'm kind of tired tonight, but I'm sure you are.
Actually, I never get tired. I'm fortunate in that regard.
I believe that.
Right.
Well, luckily, I've learned how to generate a second wind. No problem.
Well, that's what we're all doing. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all at that age where we're engaged in a second wind. We all had our teens and 20s when we were fighting the Vietnam War and turning back injustice and trying to do the civil rights movement and all that. And now this is our second wind.
That's true. That's true. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, we're the senior class of the UFO movement, and we're being propelled by a second wind.
And where motivation by disclosure doesn't work, caffeine fills in the gaps.
I've never had one cup of coffee in my entire life. I've never even had a sip of coffee ever in my entire life, ever.
Wow. Tea?
I mean, every once in a while I've had a little tea, usually decaffeinated tea.
Wow. Good for you. Gosh, and you have so much energy and probably have to do many all-nighters preparing for cases and whatnot.
Yeah. I don't need all the anxiety. I like remaining calm and centered in doing things. This, by the way, is my calm.
I can imagine. Thanks again for coming on with us and on such late notice. It's really great. I'm sure everyone out there really appreciates it. I missed hearing you on Fade to Black with Jimmy last night, and so I felt like, well, this is a different show, different audience,
Yeah, it is.
And this is all happening so you can keep repeating it on different shows, and
Well, they're different questions too. Different hosts have different questions, and they're coming at it from different angles, and it's helpful to be able to respond to particular questions because a lot of people out in the audiences have different questions, and they tend to follow different hosts who tend to ask the kind of questions they like to hear the answers to. So, I like to take the opportunity whenever it's presented to get to talk to more people about this because I think this is such an extraordinary period in the history of this phenomenon.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think that's important. Maybe when we come back, we should bring that up, is to have everyone keep the perspective that, I mean, I've been in the field for 32 years. You've been in it that long, or maybe even going back to your time with Carter. How many total years have you been involved?
1977.
Yeah, considerably
23.
12 years younger than me. 12 years longer than I have.
43 years.
Yes, yeah, I've been at 32. You've been at 43.
Yeah.
And we can. I mean, I feel like I can. I have a feeling you'll say the same thing. Is we. Didn't. Yes, we've always hoped for this moment in our lives, but but that this is a totally new direction on this subject. I mean, there's been a significant seed change in this towards disclosure that we have not seen in the 43s you've been in and 32 years I've been into it. And I did catch a brief thing about 45 minutes long, I think, that Rich Dolan did today. I didn't get to see what he did for his conference, but what he posted today, he addressed that and said he thought he'd never see it, in his time. And yet here we are, we're at this point. And I think the cat is out of the bag, or the genie's out of the bottle, it's not going back. I think, someone said, what if we go back to, and this report it's a big nothing burger, and has nothing in it, and we go back to the way we were. And I think we've moved too far down the playing field. We're not going back. Is this the final goal? No. As Dolan said, it's a marathon. It's you got to follow it through. But did we move far down that field? I certainly feel, and I think we're witnessing that we have.
All right, guys, we got about 1 minute here.
Grant has 45 years in, Nicole says.
Yeah, right.
Well, Grant wins. Neater. No.
I'm coming up 10 years. I'm coming up 10 years this year.
10 years.
Not with the show, but since my power experience, it kind of threw me for a loop. All right. Big thank you to Queen Bee, to Catfish, to Marty, Andrew, Beverly, Catfish again, Patrick, Cat Chaser, Sinister, Fapster, and Cherry Pepsi Mike for the awesome super chats. Thank you so much for supporting Spaced Out Radio the way you do. Really do appreciate each and every one of you tuning us in tonight. This is turning into a power show. Didn't expect this, but sometimes we get lucky here on Spaced Out Radio. We got lucky tonight with Melinda and her bringing in Daniel Sheehan tonight. We're going to get going here with hour 2 in 5 seconds.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Xenagog. Xenagog is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Melinda Leslie, Daniel Sheehan. Disclosure 2021. Is it happening on June 25th, or are we going to get a level of disappointment? We will find out. Melinda, you wanted to add to the why now answer.
Yeah, and maybe before that, I thought I just saw the question from Mr. Catfish 2100 there, who said there in the comments, or I guess in the chat, what if you don't get everything from the military industrial complex? How would you explain all the abductions? What comes after? Is it too shocking for people to know? I didn't bring it up in my conversation with Jim Semivan 2 days ago, but he did. He said that the third rail, as he kept calling it, which is all the other stuff that gets into abductions and contact and cattle mutilations and crash retrievals and, et cetera. He said the third rail will happen. He said what is going to happen when this report comes out is, he said, it's going to place those of us in the UFO community in quite a spotlight, with media then turning to us, or at least some of us, certainly to Dan, and people, people of prominence in the community, to say, what about these other things? Because they won't be getting the answers there. And yet they're going to ask some, not all, but some are going to ask that next question. And Jim said, it puts the UFO community tremendous responsibility to address that. So what comes after that? Well, the report is just the beginning. Whatever they come out with, and I think we're all would be in agreement here. It's obviously just going to be incursions into military airspaces, and probably with a significant focus on things that are fairly recent in the last 10 or 20 years at best. Not a lot of historical data, although that is another thing Jim said. He said this report's going to surprise everyone. It is going to have a lot of detail. Now, is he in a position to know? I don't know the answer to that. He said that like with authority. He said, no, this is going to surprise everyone. There will be a lot of data, and a certain amount of that will make it into the public report. And he said, I think it'll surprise everyone how much actual information is in there and references to cases and whatnot. I certainly hope he's right. But he said the third rail, this other stuff comes later based upon the questions that this will bring up. And so he went on and on about that, and he foresees it bringing up so many questions that this becomes a bigger topic amongst the public at large, because to the degree even now, before the report, the public is being informed in such a way by overwhelming media attention to this, which seems to be almost increasing exponentially. And then he said, when that thing comes out, even if it's delayed, he said with certainty it will come. And he said it will be surprising to everyone how much is in there. And he said that the other questions will then come over time as people are asking. But he kind of threw down a gauntlet, if you will, to the UFO research community to say everyone needs to step up their game and realize a lot of people in this community are going to be the go-to people on these additional questions. And at some point, but he's painting a big picture to me of that this is the beginning of disclosure, and it is going to be an unfolding process. But this is the first part, and then there becomes public awareness, and people start asking. I've already seen it with people interested. People get mad when I do any kind of plug about my tours, but I'll just say this: the amount of people interested and who've been increasingly signing up, and the feedback I'm getting, I think is kind of a barometer. It's a small barometer, but it is still, to me, is a barometer of the interest in this subject increasing exponentially, literally overnight. I mean, definitely over the last 3 years, but this year and even over the last month is just, it's not even a curve anymore. It's straight up, And anyways, but going back to Dave, what you just asked me is my theory as to why this is happening. In addition to everything that's been said, there's kind of a twofold thing or threefold answer I have here. One is I've been thinking quite a bit, and maybe I'm even picking this up somewhat intuitively, that, at this point we have 9 countries, the U.S. is but one of 9 countries, obviously, that have landed on the moon. We have 3 companies now that have landed on Mars. And here in the U.S., we have, I believe it's 4, and maybe more, but that I can think of off the top of my head, 4 corporations, private corporations that are spacefaring in very active, aggressively so. And so we have private corporations who are spacefaring, going out in space, and over the next couple of years, that will increase exponentially. We have private corporations in other countries who are spacefaring. And then we have, like I said, 9 governments on the moon and 3 on Mars. I think this has become an issue that I know from, again, what we see on my tours is just an example, or like Dan, it was always saying, the amount of reports and everything. Those other countries and those other private companies going into space are coming across this stuff. I think the government has realized at some level, whatever higher level, that quite possibly this, and not only that, the amount of sightings increasing, like Dan said, I think all these things are coming together as the perfect storm of realizing they can't keep the lid on this anymore. There's rumors behind the scenes that other countries have even said, disclosure, we will. What if that's true? So, but I'm just saying, if they're seeing stuff, I can tell you, if they're going out there, they're seeing stuff. Everybody's seeing stuff. There's no way you're going to be regularly spacefaring and not see it. There's too much out there, And so based on that, I think they've realized this is becoming, and Dan, I think you said, for their control to stay on top of this, that they've made a decision to say, we got to stay on top of this. And so we got to be the first ones. So we're the go-to, and in addition to that, spin it in the direction that's useful to us. So I think it's a perfect storm of those things.
Thank you, Melinda. I appreciate that. I want to ask you, Dan, who gave the thumbs up? Was it President Biden? Recently, we've heard President Obama all of a sudden come out and talk about all of this stuff that he has discussed over the last little while about UFOs. It started on James Corden's show after years of saying that he looked into it and there was nothing there, and now all of a sudden he's had a change of heart. Did somebody in the Trump administration, before leaving office, give the thumbs up to this being released? From what you are hearing, why is this all of a sudden coming out?
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody in the Trump administration did anything that was that constructive. It was basically chaos in the entire last year of their administration, so I don't believe that any type of responsible, coordinated program of this kind of sensitivity would have been allowed to have been made by Trump. I think that there were so many people, the common metaphor was he had guardrails up all around him because the major national security infrastructure didn't trust him because he was just so incoherent about his policies. And so that they guardrailed him in, they hemmed him in, they didn't tell him all kinds of things, more so than most presidents. Now, it's important to remember, again, that the national security state bureaucracy views the people who come into office in a House of Representatives. They're only going to be there from 2 to maybe 4 to 6 years. Most of them, United States senators may be in for 2 terms and then they'll be gone. Very few of them last a long time. And they rise, after about the 3rd or 4th term, they rise into positions of people that chair committees, et cetera. And then they have to be treated in a little bit different way. But they're still not briefed in on these things because the professionals inside the national security state bureaucracy believe that they are so mercurial. The elected representatives are so, the personalities of most of them are so needy that they don't even dare win by 51%. They have to win by 55, 56, 60%. And so that they're constantly refusing to take risks, but that they are constantly taking advantage of any particular piece of information they have to try to curry their own, to feather their own nest, to build their own political power. And they're distrusted by the national security state, not without some reason. Now, if the national security state bureaucracy were engaged in a bona fide activity of simply trying to protect the legitimate national interest of the United States government, one would have an entirely different view of them. But the fact of the matter is that it's not what they're engaged in. As I pointed out at the top of the show, they're engaged in an attempt to establish full spectrum dominance over every single square foot of the planet. And they're doing it primarily for the benefit of the major corporations here in the United States. They believe that, what's good for General Motors is good for the country. They believe that if they can garner the resources of the planet and bring them in and put them into the hands of the corporations generate jobs, they manufacture materials, they stimulate the economy. It's a particular theory that they have. And so the whole mission of the national security state is so problematic that it presents a problem for us. Those of us who are loyal citizens, who've been brought up believing in the Constitution, who've been brought up believing in democracy, schooled in our public schools and in our colleges to believe these things, we come out into the adult world, coming out of college, and all of a sudden we're confronted by this reality that the entire government has been taken over by these major corporations, and that the instrumentalities of the state have been put at the disposal of the interests of the corporations and the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, et cetera. So that what I'm saying here is that what we need to do as citizens who are pushing to get this information out about the UFOs, we have to be respectful of what are legitimate national interests, but we ought not to be bound by these other accretions on legitimate government interests of protecting these types of military bases protected around the world. There are nuclear missiles. We've had direct conversations with President Gorbachev when he was still the president of the Soviet Union. My shop of the Jesuit office where I was, my staff assistant in charge of nuclear weapons policy, we sent to Russia and had face-to-face meetings with Gorbachev when he was still the Secretary of Agriculture. It's perfectly clear that they were perfectly prepared to go through a process of disarming. Russia is not historically an imperialistic country. They're ideological. They're opposing corporate capitalism around the world, etc. But they're not a territorial, ambitious country. They're ideological. In the conflict that's been going on for 75 years during the Cold War was an ideological confrontation between nation state based imperialist capitalism and state socialism. And that what we need to do right now is, in the context of the extraordinary dynamics that are going on in government right now, we know perfectly well that there's a major confrontation going on inside the Republican Party, where the hardcore right-wing robber baron mentality of the people in the Republican Party at the end of the Cold War, they went right back to trying to promulgate the same values that the robber barons promulgated during the robber baron era. In the poor regular conservatives in the Republican Party got kind of short-sheeted. The Democrats made a decision that, well, as long as the Republicans are going to go hard right, there's no reason for us to remain left of center any longer. And so they gravitated to the right of center through the Democratic Leadership Conference under Richard Gebhardt and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Al Gore and other primarily Southern Democrats. So that the entire political spectrum shifted dramatically to the right at the end of the Cold War. And the United States began to engage in this attempt to push, invaded the Middle Eastern oil fields. I mean, anybody with a political IQ above room temperature knows that that's what happened. George Bush Sr. invaded and occupied the Middle Eastern oil field right at the end of the Cold War in order to deprive China from having access to oil. I mean, that was a huge strategic play that was going on. So and I haven't seen the Richard Dolan on that observation deck platform that he did. I saw one of his days of talking about the whole UFO phenomenon, but apparently the day before, he spent the whole day talking about the geopolitical situation on the planet right now. So that part of the what's going on right now is the extraordinary dynamics that are going on the political front now, with the Republican Party in shambles. They're being taken over by this hardcore reactionary right-wing fascist element in the country, and the regular conservatives not knowing quite what to do, whether to start another party or try to capture the party back away from Trump and the reactionaries. In the Democratic Party, neoliberals, the whole Democratic Leadership Conference people that shifted to the right of center at the end of the Cold War, they're now finding themselves confronted by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who they're characterizing as socialists. this is going on. This is going on in the political sphere right now, and so that it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely that either the Republican Party structure or the Democratic Party structure made any kind of conscious decision to start releasing this information, to just add to the disequilibrium. It's very unlikely that Obama or Biden or Trump or any of those people made this decision. It was made somewhere much higher up.
Well, on that note, which brings me to something you and I talked about yesterday, which is we were in agreement, and I forget if you brought it up or I did, but I'd been thinking all yesterday morning before we even spoke, how all these various people, whether it's even today with Biden's, press secretary at the press conference taking a question there, all the way back to Gingrich and so through her we have Biden's standing based upon her representing him in an official capacity, and then Newt Gingrich and his statement, and then of course Obama and his statement answering a question you brought up earlier, Dave, about which president started this. One thing Jim Semivan said to me 2 days ago, which kind of surprised me on the phone, is he was praising our friend Steve Bassett and saying Steve was right, the work going back to, so you're going back to the Clintons then, I suppose, Clintons and Obama and stuff, only in that, I'm not trying to be pro, one side or the other as far as Democrat, Republican. That's not what I'm doing here. And certainly Jim wasn't. His point was, he was saying Bassett was right. It goes back then to Podesta and all that. So, we're saying, where did this start? Well, Jim even said that's where it started, and praised the work of Bassett and what he says about that.
All right, Daniel, when you say, is we got about 3 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. When you say that this decision came from higher up, what do you mean by higher up? Because for most of us, we would think that the president is the highest point in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I make just a very quick comment right there on that, Dave? That's the other thing I was just saying that I was trying to make a point about, is Danny and I were agreeing that there were these talking points. Everyone, so that's why I stated all those people, they're all using the same talking points. It's like they have somewhere a memo went out, who knows, that they're all using the same phraseology, the same language. Even on Corden and then again on Fox News with Obama's comments, on one hand, he said, joked about it, and then he turned it into this very, straightforward response after the joking. But again, it's like they're all using these exact same talking points. So the reason I just jumped in is I want to add that into your response there, Dan. Where is this coming from? How high up? Why? Who's given them the marching orders? Who gave them the talking points that they're using the exact same wording, exact same phraseology?
I believe that I know positively from investigations that I've done in other cases that for example, just a quick one, is that at the very end of World War II in 1945, when Ed Lansdale, who was the U.S. Army G2 in the Philippines, discovered 12 of the troves of Japanese treasure that were buried in the islands at the end of World War II, he went and told MacArthur about this. MacArthur sent Ed Lansdale and MacArthur's G2, a guy by the name of Charles Willoughby, to Washington, D.C. to meet with Truman to say they'd recovered $1.2 trillion in gold bullion, in silver and platinum bullion, and 50-gallon barrels of jewels. And the Truman set up a completely private organization to handle that. Two of the three trustees for that trust were from Brown Brothers Harriman. The Brown Brothers Harriman is a private investment firm that had J.P. Morgan in it. It had Irene DuPont in it. It had the Rockefellers in it. The major robber baron families were all part of a major private group investment firm that they had. And they had a law firm, Sullivan and Cromwell, and they had a full-time lawyer from Sullivan and Cromwell who was Allen Dulles. And Allen Dulles became the first civilian head of the Central Intelligence Agency. That there's a group like that coven of men that was involved, all the way from 1820s all the way to the 1940s. There's a nest of these men who gather together for their own financial interests, and there's still such a group.
Daniel, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Melinda, as well. We're going to go to a break here at the bottom of the hour. The Disclosure 2021, Daniel Sheehan, Melinda Leslie. We continue on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear.
Dave, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. What was your last question to Dan there? I appreciate you guys letting me
Who gave the green light?
Everyone's toes.
Who gave the green light for these statements to be made?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I realize I stepped on your
That's
toes.
Okay.
There, but I wanted to add my point there regarding those talking points. But what was your original question to Dan? Do you remember right then?
Yeah, who green lighted?
Oh, green light. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
who's above the president?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
I realized, I was there. Yeah, like who gave them the talking points? That was my point. Yeah. Where's that coming from? So
yeah.
But I know we'll go back to that when we go back.
For sure.
I have until 11. I have until 11, you guys, because I promised that.
Okay.
Dagan just flew back in. I picked him up at the airport. That I've got to see him. He's been gone for a while, and
Sure.
And Danny Paul is back from North Dakota, beating up on the Dakota Access Pipeline for us up there. So I promised I would spend some time with him.
How's that going?
Well,
for hopefully the people still listening online right now, Dan, we still got all the online people, just not the radio people. Is that Dan was the lawyer defending the Lakota there from the pipeline, and so where's that stand, Dan? How's everything going with that?
Well, it's all in front of Judge Boasberg right now. Judge Boasberg is the federal judge in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, where the cause of action was brought by Earth Justice on behalf of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and the Oglala Sioux Tribe. They all brought a lawsuit to try to stop the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline because it was unlawful to issue them a permit. The Obama administration, Justice Department, and EPA and others had all ruled that you couldn't start the construction of the pipeline without a permit crossing the river. And when Trump got in, Trump just unilaterally ordered them to go forward. And the tribes sued them to try to stop them from doing this. And Judge Boasberg just kept dragging his feet. They asked for a temporary restraining order to stop them from constructing it without a permit, and he denied it. They asked for a preliminary injunction in the middle of the case, and he denied it. They asked for a full injunction. He denied it. And he kept on dragging it out until they got the thing finally built. They built the whole thing, and then they made the argument that, well, it's all moot now. Even if we didn't have a permit, and even if it wasn't lawful for us to get a permit, you can't stop us from doing it now. So he issued an injunction against them over that, and then they appealed it to the Court of Appeals in a 3-judge panel with 2 right-wing Republican judges and 1 Democratic judge who dissented, said that he was precipitous. He should have given the new U.S. Army Corps of Engineers under the Biden administration an opportunity to review it and to decide whether they were going to voluntarily ask the Energy Transfer partners that own the Dakota Access Pipeline to voluntarily stop pumping oil through it, waiting to complete a full environmental impact study. Well, they're not going to do that in 100 years. They're not going to volunteer to do that. And the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers wasn't going to do that. And so that he gave them until May 3rd to decide what they were going to do on that. And they came in and thumbed their nose at him. So right now it's in Boasberg's court, and Boasberg has to decide to issue the injunction again and do it in such a way that it will pass muster by the right-wing appointees on the District of Columbia court right now. But as of now, strangely enough and interestingly enough, the the Democrats, it's one of the very few courts in the entire country where the Democrats still have a majority of the active judges, even though Donald Trump appointed 263 new federal judges all around the country. The District of Columbia court still has a majority by 7-5 among the full en banc, and so that whatever any third three-judge panel does, you take it up and appeal to the full bench, and they should win. So the fight is on still, but I believe we're going to get that pipeline shut off, and I think we're going to get them to take the pipeline out of there, to take it out of the Dakota Territory.
All right, we've got about 1 minute here, or less than a minute here, and I want to say a big thank you to our listeners tonight: Cherry Pepsi, Mike ×2, Vapster, Sinister, Awesome Cat Chaser, Patrick, Catfish ×5, Beverly ×2, Andrew, Marty, D Queen B, Science Bob, Philip, and everyone else for the super chats. Really do appreciate the love. Here we go, everyone.
Hi, Bob.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We have Melinda Leslie and Daniel Sheehan here tonight. Disclosure 2021. We have Daniel until the top of the hour. We appreciate you doing this for us, Dan. And right before the break, I'd ask you a question. Who above the president made this call to release all of this UFO information?
As I said, I believe that there is some progeny of the old Majestic 12. Whether it is exactly who most people believe based upon the release of the MJ12 documents, there's still debate goes on inside the community as to the bona fides of those documents. But it's perfectly clear to me that they would have done something similar to what they did with the gold, the $1.2 trillion in gold that was recovered at the end of World War II, that Truman put it into the hands of a private organization, that two of the three trustees of which were senior partners at Brown Brothers Harriman. And the law firm of Sullivan and Cromwell and Allen Dulles coordinated the deployment of that money around at the end of World War II, primarily to keep hardcore right-wing governments in power, because they were afraid of the rise of socialism at the end of World War II. And so that it's virtually certain that the rumors about Truman having done the exact same thing with this extraordinarily valuable resource of the recovered craft at Roswell, and probably an earlier craft from 1945 earlier. We don't know exactly what Roosevelt did with it. Roosevelt died on April 12th of 1945. But when the events occurred in July, mid-July or early July of 1947, we know that Truman received word about the recovered craft. They brought the craft and plus the bodies to, at that time, Wright Field. And Truman, in my opinion, whether you call it MJ12 and whether it's the exact membership that is talked about, they would have put together this kind of quasi-governmental entity that would have had control over these policies. And I believe that there is some progeny of that organization that still functions. It's got high-level members of the major corporations, the major military corporations like Lockheed and Rockwell, and others that are functioning at S4 out at Area 51. There are scientists involved in it. There are major financiers involved in it. That's an important question. One of the things that I intend to do if we get the funding that's being offered to us, it is to have the Romero Institute is in the process of establishing a new paradigm institute to actually engage in this investigation, to ascertain not only who is it that are making these types of decisions, but what are the decisions that have been made, and what is it they do know about the extraterrestrials. And at the same time, we're absolutely encouraging the entire CE5 movement of people to open direct citizen diplomacy with the members of this extraterrestrial civilization. Do not, in fact, depend upon the government to disclose this information to you. They're going to slow walk it. They're going to drag it out. Whatever set of decisions were made to start raising a little bit more information about this and giving it to the people, it's not going to go very far, in my judgment. We have to reach out to the extraterrestrial people themselves, just in the same way that we reached out to Gorbachev directly, that helped bring about the end of the Cold War. That one of my staff people, Dr. James Garrison, is the man who met with Gorbachev directly and asked him to help respond. If we could cut back 10% of our nuclear warheads, would he get the Soviet Union to respond when he became the president? And that's how he started Glasnost and Perestroika, through those citizen negotiations that went on like that. So I think we have to reach out to the extraterrestrial beings themselves, establish direct communion with them, and have negotiations with them. And don't be frightened by the United States government or the national security state bureaucracy threatening to prosecute you, saying, "Oh, you can't engage in any kind of communications with a foreign power who might be an adversary of the United States." They don't even acknowledge that they exist. How can they prosecute you for having negotiations with somebody they don't even acknowledge exists? Well, but the bottom line is, I'll defend you if they try to do it. So don't worry.
Daniel, I want to ask you one more question before I turn it over to Melinda. At what point in this conversation are we going to hear about any potential extraterrestrial life?
I think I think that the process that is going to be followed is they're going to do this through the pathway of the discovery of exoplanets. They're going to be putting up the Webb telescope, the spaceborne telescope, that's going to be able to block out the glare of the stars, and we're going to be able to, for the first time, actually see the surfaces of some of these exoplanets. And they're going to be able to kind of download information from the telescopes to determine what the atmospheres are on these planets. We're actually going to be eventually able to actually get digital photographs of the surface of these planets. And I believe that what they're going to be doing is step by step, they're going to say, "Oh, now they've discovered water, on the moon. They've discovered water on Mars. They're going to discover bacterial life, on our own solar system planets." Then they're going to say, "Oh, they've discovered bacterial life out on some far exoplanet, then some minimal type of aquatic life." And they're going to try to take us through this process slowly, step by step, of discovering more and more complex life. And they're going to drag it out as long as they can, because the elite power group that's in charge here on our planet want to stay in power as long as they can. And so they're going to have to try to establish some sort of diplomatic relations. They're going to try themselves to establish diplomatic relations over our head so that they can continue to stay in control. That's clearly what they're going to be trying to do. We have to short circuit that process by we as citizens establishing the diplomatic relations with these star people first. I think that's what we need to do. And so that I think that the elites program is to try to drag this out as long as they can and use the process of discovering exoplanets and more complex life on one exoplanet after another to establish their own calendar for this release. And I think it's extraordinarily gradual, and I think we can beat them to this. And I think that's what we need to do.
Well, Dan, though, isn't it a little nutty, though? On one hand, we're getting this, report and this whole, like I said, the talking points going towards, look, there's these craft, Okay, they're being seen by the military a lot. I mean, this is just where we're at right now with this, is they're being seen by the military, they're being seen by others. It's here, we don't know what it is. And then after the report, I think there's a trajectory going on here where it won't say it in the report, but there's a trajectory saying, look, we don't know what it is, we don't know who it is, and it's not Russia, it's not China, it's not us, and therefore eventually saying it's off-world technology. Well, haven't you just, if they do that, isn't that, it just seems so nutty to me, because I hear you out that they would use to get into the extraterrestrial question, they're going to talk about the exoplanets and the likelihood of life and all that. But because of those, the planets in the Goldilocks zone, this within 20 degrees of an average temperature of Earth and all those things. I agree with you there, but I'm also thinking, oh, whoops, hang on, my computer's doing weird stuff. I just have to say, no, never mind, sorry. But yet at the same time, I think it's like, well, wait a second, if they're at the same time saying, we don't know who it is, we don't know who it is. And I think the logical jump from that is they're going to eventually come around to say off-world technology. Well, didn't they just sidestep what you were just saying? How do we reconcile those two things? Or are they going to plan it out to kind of do both at the same time?
Well, it's interesting that right now that if you watch the statements that are made by both Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, you get very frustrated by it, because they'll constantly be talking about it being a potential threat, and they constantly talk about it being more of a threat if it's Russia or China, and they say, well, more of a threat if it's Russia or China, more than who? But they won't say. And then they'll say, well, if and they will upon occasion say, each of them has said that we do not believe that it's Russian, and we do not believe that it's Chinese, and we do not believe that it's our own technology. And then so whoever's talking to them will say, well, what are you saying? Who do you think it is? And Chris Mellon has actually gone so far as to say, well, it raises the question of whether we're alone. And he says it like that. But whenever they say, are you saying that you think it might be extraterrestrial? He said, no, please don't say I'm saying anything like that. And so they get this weird thing going on right now. But Eric Davis said to the Senate Intelligence Committee that he believes, and the people who are around him who know about the information believe that these are off-world vehicles. And they said that, but that was a classified briefing in which that was said. I don't think they're going to say that again in this report. I don't believe. No,
but if I'm seeing a logical process combined with comments that Jim made to me, a logical process of where the report will take things, it sounds like they're just this close to going there. And so is that where it's going? Because the proof of extraterrestrial life on exoplanets and stuff, to me, sounds like a much longer process. Unless they know information there that they're sitting on, and they're going to time the release at the same time, which I could see why they might do that.
Well, it is, as I say, this is speculation at this point. What I hope to do, and I think what Lou Elizondo hopes to do, by the complaint that he has filed, is to put as much pressure as we possibly can with citizens groups behind us working on this all together, to put the maximum degree of pressure on the Inspector General's office to demand answers to these questions. To say, look, what's going on here? Are you people suggesting that these are off-world people? And of course, then what they're going to do is try to keep that secret themselves. The Inspector General's office is going to try to insist that nobody talk about this, that all keep it secret. We're all part of the same, national security state apparatus. But you would think that anybody in good faith conducting an investigation inside the Department of Defense to determine what the policies are regarding this would have to try to determine what's known about it. Now, but as I say, that the FBI doesn't conduct legitimate investigations. Congressional committees don't conduct, legitimate investigations. Police departments don't conduct legitimate investigations for the most part. They're serving the interests of their own institution one way or another. And so that we as the citizens have to do this. Now, they consider us terribly naive. They consider us reckless and dangerous, and we don't have the same kind of insights they do. But what we really don't share is the protection of the elite like they do. And that's what they really see their mission to be, to keep the same people in positions of elite power that are already in there, because look how beneficial it is to them. They're all in positions of high military grades. They get good pay. They have great retirements, that they're all part of a power structure that they all want to keep in place. And they think that we're threatening that somehow the great unwashed masses are somehow going to storm the Capitol building and tear the windows out of the place. That's what they think.
It's so frustrating that, at least here in the U.S., and I could say world politics too, but here in the U.S., that our getting disclosure is so tightly wound in, and the way that that's coming out is so tightly bound with the political mess we're in right now. It's really frustrating that this is being driven by politics and driven by the military. I mean, I'm for you. Let's bypass that and go directly to the ETs. I'm with you on that completely. You and Mark Sims, because it's like, I'm like, this is so frustrating that this is wound together, and it's mired because it's politics and and the military that are the ones giving us disclosure right now, or by default not giving it to us, and it's just so frustrating. It's like that it shouldn't be mired in that politics. It's obviously, I know everyone would agree with me, it's way too important. It's right. About our it's about the future of mankind and our place in the universe, and that it's mired with this current political nonsense going on is just really frustrating.
Well, I mean, look at the analogy to global climate change. That they've been being told about global climate change for decades. We've known that this thing is going to be happening. And the political structures and the national security state infrastructures are put together in such a way that they do not take into account the long-term best interests of the people and the planet, that they take into consideration their own short-term institutional interests, and that they allow this thing to continue because they're being funded by the oil corporations. The political parties are funded by the oil corporations and natural gas corporations, so they keep on facilitating them and giving them subsidies to do this, even though they know they're destroying the entire planet. How rational is that? That's completely irrational. And yet this is the same thing that's happening here. We have to establish our relationship with these extraterrestrial people, for the next 50,000 years of our human family. And here they are messing around with dumb politics and bureaucratic interests and refusing to deal with this in an honest and forthright way. So what we have to do as the people, we have to mobilize. It's one of the great areas where there is shared agreement, I think, throughout the entire UFO community, whatever some of the differences are, and there are some. But the fact of the matter is almost everybody agrees that the CE5 process of actually undertaking steps to go out into the outdoors, stand beneath the stars, reach up to the people, to organize groups of people, to reach up, whether you're doing lasers to try to attract their attention, or meditation, or whatever it is, whatever the means are that we have at our disposal to engage in this type of citizens diplomacy. Everybody, from Dr. Stephen Greer to Steve Bassett to Mark Sims to all kinds of others. I don't want to, and yourself, for example, taking people out to these trips to see. So what I'm saying is that virtually everybody in the UFO community has to join together to form a common bond that we are going to engage in this citizen diplomacy campaign. And, we're at the same time, we're putting pressure on the government to try to disclose. And we've got people there like full-time, like Steve Bassett in Washington, D.C., and we've got Dr. Greer, who's basically, rolling political grenades into their tent, every week, beating up on them, accusing them of getting set to hold a false flag attack by the back engineered equipment that they've got. We have a big tent of us in the UFO community. And all of us have to share the common belief that we can reach out ourselves as citizens directly to these other beings and establish the confidence that they can have in us. If they don't have confidence in our elite leadership, which we don't have that much confidence in our elite leadership, as far as I know, if we can't trust them, we can't ask them to trust them. So we have to become trustworthy, and we have to be responsible. We can't be making up things. We can't be going off with complete fantasies like Corey Goode and Dave Wilcock and Laura Eisenhower. All these people making stuff up just because they think, well, it may be true, so I'll just say it's true. We've got to be careful. We've got to exercise responsibility. We don't have any authority to tell anybody what they can't say. But on the other hand, we don't have to invite them to all of our conferences and give them an audience. We have to be careful here. And so that we all have to engage in the CE5 program and reach out to the people from the stars and establish diplomatic relations with them. And I think that is the way to go, while we're putting pressure on the government to try to release whatever we can get them to release. But do not hold your breath, waiting for them to do it.
Well, I think, I know Dave would probably agree with me and most of the viewers. I just want to say, Dan, I'm so glad that you're in there helping, Lou specifically, and indirectly Chris, but that you're in there,
and Stephen Greer and Mark Sims and
okay, but I'm saying that you're
all of us
pushing. Let's just dialing it back to the disclosure subject a little bit. Is that you're in there behind the scenes, in the midst of pushing for disclosure, when I feel very secure in saying that certainly the majority of the UFO community stands behind you, and I, for one, and I think I can speak for many others, are very glad you're in there helping.
Well, I'm really privileged actually to get to be able to do this. And I hasten to point out, not that there are a lot of other lawyers competing for the position. Everybody's always saying, "Oh, how can you jeopardize your reputation? You did the Pentagon Papers for the New York Times, and you did the Watergate burglary. How can you jeopardize your career by being so vocal about this particular issue?" I mean, how valuable is someone's career as compared to the next 50,000 years of our relationship with the extraterrestrial civilization? And that's what the problem is with people inside the national security. Say, "Oh, I don't want to jeopardize my pension. What about my retirement? I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, this is bad history. That we are all part of history. This is one of the most extraordinarily important periods of history in our entire human history. And so that we have to rise to the occasion. We have to make whatever sacrifices, take whatever risks that we have to take. So I don't find it incongruous that I represent both the Disclosure Project and Lou Elizondo. I don't think it's a contradictory that I am dear friends with Paula Harris and have worked to help her legally and help Steve Bassett together legally over the issues of the citizens hearing. I'm trying to provide whatever skills I can to this common mission that we all have, to get this information out, to reach out to the people of the stars, and get to be friends and cohorts with them.
Well, your track record is obviously that you're dogged, for sure, and you don't take no for an answer. And so, I think it gives everyone confidence in the process to have you in there as part of it. And you're there, with so many questions that people have about, for instance, Lou and Chris, that you're in there actually talking to them, and you have a proven track record in judgment. And if you say, look, these guys are legit, you're helping the rest of the UFO community come to terms with that, and be more supportive because of your support of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I was hoping to have you address something. I know you got to get going, but if you can make a brief comment.
We've got about 45 seconds, Melinda.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, maybe what I was going to bring up is going to wait for Dave and I to get into, because I did want to get into what what do we really know as a UFO community, like beyond what's being said in this current disclosure story? What do we really know about the subject overall? What can we say with some amount of certainty versus what they really know, versus what the government knows, and so, but again, unfortunately, Dan, you got to go from us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, Dan.
Coming on this call.
Well, we'll have plenty of time together. This is going to be an extraordinarily interesting month, and we'll be all talking with each other almost daily about this issue and appearing on different radio shows and television shows and interviews. So let's just keep at it and keep the pressure on and keep looking to the sky, gang.
Thank you, Daniel Sheehan,
Yes,
everyone.
thank you.
Melinda Leslie as well. We continue with Spaced Out Radio's Hour 3 next. Hey, Dan. Oh, you already left. Damn it. I wanted to ask
Shoot.
him. That's all right.
Well,
Thank you, gorgeous Emily Bigelow. Thank you, and welcome finally to the chat room. And thank you guys from Third Phase of Moon. I was just about to ask Dan about that too, but I will get that answer tomorrow.
I apologize. I didn't see that question come up till I'd already said what I was saying. So I apologize to the guys from Third Phase. And yes, I will return your call.
All right. Melinda, you can chat with the audience. I'm going to be right back, okay?
Okay. Okay. Anybody have a question for me? Type it in the comments and I'll answer it. How's that sound? Anybody got a question out there? I don't know how many people we've got in the chat. I suppose I should look somewhere, maybe on my phone. I'm gonna. Well, I'll see what Dave wants to get into next, but that what do we really know versus what they know? I think there's a lot of research in the field showing what we can say with some amount of certainty. And we have a lot of new people in the field, which I'm grateful for. In the UFO research community, we said for so long, we need young people. Well, we got them. But I applaud them. Yay, everybody. But at the same time, sometimes I feel like we don't address the history of what we've already learned enough, and the information that suggests what the government really knows about this. We're going to do a panel. I think Dave and I are both going to be on it with Grant Cameron on Saturday. Nicole, if you're in here, you can talk about that and say what time. Put it in the comments. I'm forgetting. I'm asking Nicole Sackich if you're in here to put it in the comments. I don't know. I think it's at 5 o'clock. Is that Eastern or I don't know. But you guys check that, and people can look at Grant's Facebook page. There'll be information, and then I'll share it on my Facebook page as well as soon as I have clarity on that. But that'll be on Saturday. And we're going to address some of these same issues with a great panel of people, a whole list of people. Not exactly. If you saw the last panel we just recently did, it'll be some of the same people and as well as some new people. But one of the things I'd like Don Schmidt, if he joins us again, researcher Donald Schmidt was on there with us, and I want to ask him to talk about what we know versus what we strongly feel the government would know. In a serious discussion. I think that's something we could get into in that panel. I'd like to do that. Anyways, anybody have any question? I'm just sitting here yammering on until Dave comes back. And, one of the things that we know, is abductions, without a doubt. And Jim got into that long conversation with me about the third rail and how this discussion will go there. He himself, as many as you know, is an abductee. He's been public about that already. Question: how do you sense them in regards to telling the truth? Do you mean the ETs, Liz, or do you mean
I
the
would
government?
I would assume
How do you
that.
sense them in regards to telling the truth? I don't know if that means, Liz, if you can follow up with any clarity to that, because I don't know if you mean the ETs. In my own experiences, that's just a sense of, their seriousness and what do they mean.
The ufologist is what she's asking.
Well, how do we know if the ufologists are telling the truth? Well, does their stuff match up? I mean, if their story, if they have a story that changes every week, that's a huge red flag that something's not legit.
Your hair looks great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's just kind of messed up.
I
don't know what just happened.
Quickly, is we only got about a minute here. Nikki is wondering how to get a hold of you.
How to get a hold of me? Let me see here. Through the Center for the New Age here in Sedona is a good way to get a hold of me. If you're on Facebook Messenger, and calling me, I don't mind staying my phone number because it's on all my marketing materials, and so you can call me at 310-502-5398. So that's one way to reach me. Certainly, like I said, Facebook Messenger. I'm on Twitter. And if you have a difficulty getting a hold of me, because I do get very busy and it can take me days, as the poor guys from Third Phase of the Moon who've tried to reach me recently know, but that's where I'll tell people, and I will call you guys back, by the way, if you're still listening, but it's the Center for the New Age is really good about, relaying messages to me. So that's always another option.
All right.
What do you know about Dr. John Mack's meeting?
Hold on to that.
I don't know anything about that.
Hold on, because here we go.
Okay.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Thank you to everyone tuning in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? You got Xenagog. Xenagog is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Melinda Leslie is with us here, and we're going to continue on talking UFOs all night long. Melinda, I've got a ton of questions from our audience here, and I'm going to start off here with, let's see here. Let's start off with Natalie, who's way, way over in Europe. And she is asking, I'm wondering what it is that we know about MyLab programs across the globe.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a very big question. And it gets into what does the government really know? Now, I wish I could remember what Dolan said today. And if someone is in there who listened to Dolan's podcast today, but he said something about there's 3 levels to this. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But I think the MILAB programs gets to that, like what's really known. Because I think at a deeper level, when you get into what you would call a shadow government, certainly a secret space program, now at the surface level, do they know that these are extraterrestrial spacecraft? Do they know that already? I'm going to state this as, yeah, they absolutely know. And I think if Dan was on here, he would say they absolutely know that. I think Lou and Chris have said that. So even though everyone's being coy about it in their official talking points, but that they know that. But when you get into what's really known at a deeper level, for those of you who followed the Wilson document or even the recent comments of Newt Gingrich, you go into, wait a second, folks who asked deeper into the reverse engineering program, and Dan and I do talk about this quite a bit privately, but into the reverse engineering program, that at that level where there's crash retrievals, reverse engineering, figuring out how those things work and how you fly them and how you apply that technology to our technology, you guys, that's going on. Absolutely. And I think there's multiple pieces of evidence at that. And one of those pieces of evidence is the MILABs. Now, MILABs have been given a really bad name from it being misused by certain people in the field. But in my research, it's always gone back to alien abductees and contactees, experiencers, whatever you want to call, all the above, being targeted by covert human agencies because of their experiences, then having harassment, surveillance, monitoring, and sometimes being picked up and interrogated, and having experiences at the hands of covert human personnel, whether military and or intelligence. And those programs are happening because those alien abductions are real. I've always said this. I feel like these are my talking points. I've said forever. But those MILAB programs speak to why are they doing that with the abductees, is because they know to be able to fly and operate this technology, you have to have that psi component. Here's your woo for you, Dave. That psi, that paranormal component, to be able to fly or operate the craft. You do it with your mind. It is through psychokinesis, telepathy, those things. And they know that. And training our personnel, I heard this from the late, I'm forgetting his name right now, Bill Uhouse, who worked out at S4, another insider. Lazar's not the only one. There's a number of guys that have come out, and Uhouse had a very big involved story. And everyone, if you're new to this field, you need to look this up. You need to find out the research about Bill Uhouse. But he talked about designing the flight simulators and the electrical systems for the flight simulators, training the pilots out at S4 and 51, particularly S4, I should say, to operate the craft. And I believe Uhouse's story absolutely checked out. But he told me in those flight simulators even that there was a reaction time from the pilots trained to do that involved that side component, that they were able to react, and not only their reaction, but also their ability to manipulate it, even though it was a flight simulator and not actual craft, it still reacted in the same way. So obviously, maybe there was a little bit more technology in the flight simulator other than just being on a gimbal. But my point being that they know this. This is why they've worked with the abductees and experiencers. And you guys, we're not talking just a few people. I have hundreds of cases. What was that noise?
Oh, that is thunder.
Oh, cool. Thunder,
There's just lightning and then bang, thunder. That's
I heard it.
Daylights out of me.
I love thunder.
The daylights out of me.
Here in Arizona and Sedona, we get a lot of it, and we get a monsoon season, which we're about to come up into with the next couple of weeks, and I just love it. It's bad for my tours because it's often too cloudy to go out, but I love the light shows we get with the lightning. We get some spectacular lightning here. Anyway, so there you go. So there, the MILAB programs are international. I mean, I've had cases that I've worked with from all over the world. It's clearly an international thing. I think when it comes, I think there's a lot of data that when it comes to crash retrievals, the gathering of that And that level of involvement with figuring out how the craft work and everything, it seems to me, and I think there's just multiple pieces of evidence suggesting that all that is funneled to a U.S. based group who's managing this, and even other things that happen in the world, it gets funneled here. That there seems to be one core group doing it. I don't know if I can say that definitively. I can just say there's a lot of evidence suggesting that. So when this person said, what's the name? Reincarnated redhead. I love that. That the programs across the globe, but even like when I have had international cases that have had my labs in other countries, yes, well, there'll be military or individuals there speaking that local language or something, yes. But then there's also American guys present in those experiences. So even that seems to be, if not run, but in some way greatly involving an American or very English speaking presence, but in those experiences. That's one thing. The international cases, I've only had a few international cases where there were no Americans present, but in all the other ones there were Americans present. So there you go. That's kind of a long answer to that question, but it's a good question.
We got to speed it up because we only got you.
Is there another question, Dave?
Oh, there's a bunch here. Nicola is asking, do you think Antarctica and all the visits they had from high government officials have anything to do with the UFO phenomena?
Okay, I'll answer them quickly.
Are you there?
Hang on. Now, you broke up for a minute, but I can read the question. I'm not an expert on the Antarctica stuff. I can't address it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Dave, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Dave, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just wondering if
Dave, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It says, do you think Antarctica and the visits they've had from government officials have anything to do with the UFO? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an expert on that. So, hey, we have the Contact in the Desert conference coming up online. There are people who are speakers there who know something about that. I don't know anything about it, or I know very little.
Okay. Let's get to the next one.
I don't know the answer to that.
Let's get to the next one. Because I think you're having troubles hearing me, Melinda. And let's go here. Why is everyone assuming ETs are good?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So for people who don't know, we are having a major thunder and lightning storm here. So it doesn't look to be affecting my side, from technically, but apparently my voice is not getting through to Melinda, but we will try and get it through. Why is everyone assuming ETs are good and want to help us? Is it because of Stephen Greer? This is from Trinitro to Luedo.
Well, I don't think anyone's assuming that. I'm certainly not. I can go from my own abductions, and most abduction contact cases, there are some outliers with people who feel they've had quote negative experiences. Even myself, I've had traumatic experiences, but when I get to recalling the in-depth memory of those experiences, they were overwhelmingly positive. I've been healed, I've been helped, I've been taught psi abilities, I've hybrid children I've been presented and had some wonderful experiences with them. So in my case, my experiences are good. That doesn't mean I haven't had trauma. I have, but that doesn't mean the experience was bad. I always give this analogy. If you were taken in the middle of the night to your dentist and got against your will, or some strange dentist in a strange environment, and he gave you a whole new set of teeth and fixed all your dental problems, would that be a bad or good thing? Well, they took you against your will and it was traumatic and frightening, but yet you were helped, so it's kind of like what is just your perspective to how you view it. But I'm not negating that some people have had very frightening experiences. But regardless, I'm not saying all ETs are good. I don't know how many types are fully out there. I wouldn't dare speak for them, even though I've had positive experiences. I think for Greer to say they're all good is nonsense. Thank you. I'll just say it. It's nonsense. It's like, what? How? If, like Danny just said, all these exopolitics, all the, not exopolitics, I mean exoplanets, but all these exoplanets, all the possibility of life out there, how could you dare say it's all one way or the other? We don't know that. It's, to me, that's just nonsense. There's no way to know. So I don't say that. And I think anyone that does is overstating things, oversimplifying, and is incorrect, because there's no way to know. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I don't think there's evidence for malevolence. Okay, I don't see a lot of evidence for malevolence on their part. But would I assume they're all good? Why, even if we pick one planet, you pick Earth, and you go, are all the people on Earth good or bad? Well, I think if you're objective, you would say there's a mix. There are evil people, there's good people, there's people who do evil even though they have good intentions. There's people with evil intentions but end up getting stopped and put in prison and not, whatever. I mean, there's no, it's just frustrating. My bottom line point is there's no way to know.
I got to laugh because that last thunder and lightning actually set off my car alarm.
Oh. I didn't hear it. Cool. I heard the thunder lightning, but I didn't hear a car alarm.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Let's get to Bill's question on Spreaker. Is UFO disclosure is the UFO disclosure now, does it concern presence on the moon and beyond now? As China is up in space, there is important minerals and isotopes like helium, for instance, for power sources. Is this all in play?
Well, I think everyone going to the moon, it's in play. I'm not sure that I think there's evidence, a variety of pieces of evidence to suggest that there could be an ET presence on the moon. That could be one of the reasons why I brought up that whole international thing with why this could be, why it's happening now, Dave, and answering your question there is, what if there is an international interest, and like Danny said, because our government wants to be in the control of this, what if that whole international input is part of why it's happening now? I don't know if that's true. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. But Thor wants your car, Dave? Oh, it's like, what? Okay, and so I'm sorry, Dave, what was the question again? I got off track. I'm getting tired. Sorry.
Well, just in regards to everybody going up into space, is it for the minerals and consumption of everything from helium as fuel supplies, which could be for the aliens as well?
I mean, I think the aliens are so far in advance of us, they don't need any of that stuff, quite frankly. They're coming and going. They obviously have free energy or able to access the energy in the vacuum of space or something like that, 0 point and all those good things. So I think there's something like that going on, and they're not needing that. As far as the competition on this planet, I think, sure, why not? I'm not an expert on that. You'd have to talk to someone who knows about space exploration and the moon to know. So I don't know.
All right.
Sure, why not?
We have Melinda Leslie for another 6.5 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We have a big lightning storm going on now. If that means that we get knocked off the air, well, that would be first time in a long time that's happened. But hey, I might go watch the storm if that happens. That's for sure. All right, let's continue on here as we continue with your questions here on Spaced Out Radio. And I'm just trying to find one from media here, and I think it may have scrolled on by because the chat room is moving very, very fast tonight on the show. And I'll just ask you here as I wait for, or let's go to Big J's question here. Will we ever get disclosure on the gold on the moon? That's hypothetical.
I have no idea. I don't know the answer to these guys. I have no idea.
Okay. Are you surprised that we haven't heard about aliens yet? It's all been about the military. It's all been
No.
about.
No, I'm not surprised. I think they're unrolling this in a very slow, deliberate way. Like Dolan said today, it's a marathon, and so no, I think they're. I agree with you, Dave. We can throw out theories as to why now, and that is a good question because we don't really know. We just have the theories. But yet it to me it almost doesn't matter. It's happening. I mean, this is happening right now, and it's, as I was saying in one of the previous breaks, it's the first time it's happened in Dan's 45 years and in my 32 years in the field and your 10 years in the field and Grant Cameron's 45 years in the field. And God, I'd have to, what did Don Schmidt say on our last panel? Is it 50 or 60 years in the field or something, and it's like, and this hasn't happened before. So are we getting it? Are we looking a gift horse in the mouth? Yeah. I think it's our job as UFO community to question why and everything, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. It is, and we're left to have to hold everybody's feet to the fire and make sure that we're getting truthful information, that information backs up and can be verified. And yeah, there'll be stumbling blocks along the way. And like Jim said, we have a responsibility in the UFO research community because at some point it is likely when the media is not getting those questions answered, like you just said about, ETs and aliens, that they're going to be coming to us, And so I think we have a responsibility to act responsibly, to speak about this based on evidence, and go from there.
All right, let's get to Joe's question here, as we got about 3.5 minutes. Why are most of the UFO community more interested in examining the personalities providing evidence rather than examining the evidence?
Good point. I agree with you. We should examine the evidence, and we should be talking less about the personalities. Unfortunately, we just have some really big personalities in this field. You and I included, Dave. We have personalities in this field. It's the way it is. And it's, current society today is absorbed with personality. So everyone gets caught up on that. We follow and worship the stars, and it's unfortunate, but it's, it's, I think it's just the way society is now. But I agree. Ufology should follow the evidence, hey, if someone is talking a good story but not presenting evidence for it, we need to move on. I say, hey, if you've got the evidence, present it along with your story. I've always felt very strongly about that in what I present in my own research, and I always strive for that myself. And I think that's what okay, sorry.
All right, Melinda, we got 2 minutes left. I want you to tell our audience what you expect in 30 days, June 25th.
A delay. No, seriously. Jim, Danny, everyone involved, Lou, Chris, everyone is saying, May will be surprised, and I don't know. And that 25th is not for the public to get something. That date is for the Senate to get something, or for the DNI. So I think they have 180 days till the 25th to present the information to the DNI. I don't know if that means the DNI on the 25th has to have something prepared for the Senate. I wish Dan was on here. He might give clarity on that. But regardless, I think all the evidence from what everyone is saying is it's likely. I mean, Jim explained the whole intelligence process to vetting the information, confirming it, compiling it, then making a report. And he said he expects at the very least the DNI is going to request more time. So you guys, I expect a delay. Now, does that mean it's going to be delayed extensively? I think when the report doesn't come out on that date, the fact that the media is paying such close attention to this, I think the media might help to pressure them, to keep on it, unless it gets extended so far that they drop interest, and that's a possibility as well. So, but again, Jim seems to be real adamant that it might get delayed. It won't be indefinitely. And not only will there be the report to the Senate, but there will be a public report. And that public report will, according to Jim, be very surprising and have more in it than we think. I think we're also jaded in the community. We see the worst scenarios here as opposed to maybe a better scenario. I don't know. I'm wondering like everybody else, so I don't know either.
Melinda, we will definitely keep in touch with you over the next few weeks.
Thank you, Dave, for having me on, and I'm so glad Dan, because he's phenomenal that he was able to join us.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up next, we got the Magic 8 Ball. Get your questions ready. You were amazing. Amazing.
Oh, thanks. I tried. People get mad. Dave, people get really mad at me about stepping on toes and stuff. And I really tried to behave myself tonight. I hope people online,
it's been awesome.
Thanks. Thank you, dear.
It's been awesome. But we'll stay in touch because there's a lot of good stuff coming down, and we will be staying in touch quite frequently.
Are you going to be on panel on Saturday at this point? Do you know?
I'm hoping to.
Okay, good.
I'm hoping to.
Because we'll get into all these discussions with that whole gang's input,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, my friend. You take care.
Thank you. Thank you,
man. And by the way, there was a question in there. What's on the map? Those are UFO sightings on the map behind Melinda.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'll do. Wait, so you can do this really. Oh, I'm screwing it up. There we go. That's it. That's Sedona. And those pictures are UFOs. Well, they're hard to see, but that map is pins of UFO sightings around Sedona. Some of them are like red pins that equal like 100 sightings each. So that's just here in my office for when people come to my office, they can look at. I used to have my tour people come in here, but now they don't. But my reading clients and stuff happen in here. And so that's what that is. That's what that is. It's a labor of love. I have a lot more pins to add to it.
All right, my friend. You take care.
Thank you again.
Much
I'll
love.
sign off.
We'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks again, Dave. Bye-bye.
Melinda Leslie, everyone. Melinda Leslie. Yes. Who's ready for some Magic 8 Ball? I'm going to start warming it up. Yep. Magic 8 Ball. I'm ready for it. Are you? Thanks, Murray F. Thanks, Dirty Filth. Thanks, Michael Listuka. And Gorgeous Jenny. All right, we're warming it up. We're warming it up. That was some serious thunder and lightning. That first couple of cracks was good. Real good. Hey, Drake, how you doing? Gorgeous Renee, nice to see you. Yes, Jennifer, Rebecca, Melinda is a medium as well. Sweet Bobby Cheesy, how are you, man? That one did catch me off guard. Usually I don't get caught off guard like that, little Davey Altman. Hey, Dave, you and I got to talk tomorrow. Your guy be the last half hour, 11 to 11:30 Pacific. And he'll need to come on camera. So I got to get you a StreamYard link for that. Truth Seeker, what's happening? Thank you for all the amazing super chats tonight, everyone. Really do appreciate your love and support here on the mighty SOR. Okay, get your questions in. Capital letters, if you don't mind. Greatly appreciate that. And here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Really appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's time for that time of the week again, where we get to the old Magic 8 Ball. All right, let's get the Magic 8 Ball started, where if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, we're going to ask the old Magic 8 Ball. I've been warming it up throughout the break here, whether or not we can get some truth here. The Magic 8 Ball, I think, is batting around, I don't know, about 85, 87%. But, hey, we're going to see where it goes. So our first question tonight is from Vinny, who is asking, were the original moon landing videos real or a hoax? Since we have to ask yes or no, we'll ask, were they real, Magic 8 Ball? And, you know, we always want to make sure that everything is warmed up and everything is ready. The Magic 8 Ball says, yes and beyond, they are real. Yes and beyond, they are real. There you go, Vin. Now you got some clarity on whether or not the moon landing videos are real or not. All right, moving on here throughout the chat room. Let's get to Big Fat Creep here. Is there going to be UFOs flying around after the 25th if the U.S. don't come through? Well, I think so. Let's see what the 8 Ball says. In hypersleep. So the UFOs are actually going to be just hanging on out, waiting for some sort of response to happen, because they will be in hypersleep in our atmosphere. Okay. Fast Hemi is asking, will my wife stop snoring like a Bigfoot? Oh, I don't know if I want to give this answer or not. Infinitely yes. Probably going to have to deal with some earplugs. Yes, but we're going with it. All right. The Philip Blair, everyone. The Philip Blair is asking, will we be disappointed on June 25th? Levels are positive for disappointment. I agree with that. I think we are going to be disappointed. I don't think we're going to get any good stuff. I really don't. The juice just isn't going to be there for us. It's not going to be there. They're going to give us tidbits, maybe another video or two. It's going to be grainy, probably come from Jeremy Corbell or one of his beard hairs. But we're going to get a couple more videos. I'm pretty sure of that. Will we get any juice confirmation? I don't know. Cherry Pepsi Mike, I totally forgot to ask the Jim Semivan covert-ops question. That is my fault. I will ask Melinda that next time I chat with her. So I apologize. Jenny is asking, is my surprise guest coming in June or July an alien? Ooh, I don't know. Levels are positive. We are going to have alien interaction, Jenny. It is the Magic 8 Ball, and we know that it tells the truth. All right, let's get to Murray's question. Will Dave see a Bigfoot this summer? I'm working on it. I spent most of the weekend, because we had a long weekend up here in Canada. I spent most of the weekend looking for him. Saw some black bear. Saw some bear cubs. Saw wild horses, but no Bigfoot. So the answer to this one is, you have my pity. So in other words, I'm going to be shut out in 2021 from seeing Sasquatch again. All right. Raspberry wants to know if aliens like Carl like her big monster feet. Signs point to yes. Apparently aliens have a foot fetish, Raspberry, according to the Magic 8 Ball. So there we go. All right, let's continue on here. And let's get to Chris Kringle. He's taking the summer off before he goes back to work for the winter, preparing for his flight on December 24th. By the way, you can track him at noradsanta.org. Question, Mr. 8 Ball, are aliens naughty or nice? Signs point to yes, which means they could be both. Think about that. They could be both. All right. All right. Andrew is asking, was Vinny the listener, when he disappeared from the chat room, off to the bingo hall? I think he was. Let's see what the Magic 8 Ball says. Not today, Sheriff. Not today. Interesting. All right. Nikki is asking, are the underwater UFOs going to present themselves to humans in the next 30 years? Interesting question. Magic 8 Ball says, Nikki, out of fuel, try again later. It's all, you know what's weird is it's always around 42 after the hour where we start getting the out of fuel, try again later questions. Let's see if we can get that one again. Going to give us another answer? You may rely on it, Nikki. You may rely on it. All right, let's get to Jose's question. Does the Magic 8 Ball act the same like Dave? Are you like me, Magic 8 Ball? Are you using my Zen and my Chi? Ask again later. Doesn't want to give up its secrets, Jose. All right. Magic 8 Ball. Apparently, Cat Chaser wants to know, is it okay to eat breakfast foods for dinner? Sounds disgusting to me, but we're going to find out. Levels are positive. Oh, this thing's broken. This thing's got to be broken. Levels are positive that it's okay to eat breakfast foods for dinner. Sacrilegious. That's what it is. Sacrilegious. Terrible. Unprofessional. Improper. All right. Vinny wants to know, I can't ask the Magic 8 Ball that. It's a yes or no question. But it is a good question. Why are they called apartments when they are all stuck together? True. Aussie from Australia. Will Lou Elizondo admit that he's got aliens? Well, he kind of did the last show that we had him on. He says, not today, Sheriff. Lou's not going to admit that. Philip Blair, will Dave get to ride on one of the wild horses? Batteries are low. We're running out of juice here. Probably not. They're kind of big. Geez, like one of them jumped out like 20 feet in front of my truck, 20, 25 feet. He was massive, gorgeous, brown, that quarter horse color stallion. He was gorgeous. Alicia is asking, does she have a better chance at an engagement with an ET than a human? Oh my. Oh my. Do you really want that, Alicia? Is she going to be getting engaged to an alien? Ask again later. Even the Magic 8 Ball doesn't know. Just saying. Well, let's see here. We got time for a couple more. Oh, let's see here. I think we're dried up for questions. Alicia drained it all, asking whether or not she is going to be Mr. and Mrs. Alien. I don't know. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the ufological. A man reckons he spotted a UFO that's 100% alien. Scott Waring has been running YouTube channel UFO Sightings Daily since 2010, so it's no surprise that he got a little excited when he spotted the UFO. The video shows a triangular vessel traveling across the sky from right to left on the video, and it's hard to make out what exactly it is. However, one thing is for certain, it's 100% alien. How can you give the confirmation that it's 100% alien? That's Scott's view anyways. Narrating this video, he says, this is a single glowing object. This object has 4 powerful glowing areas. Each corner of its glowing area at the center of the front of it is also glowing, which I assume is either part of a cockpit or part of a propulsion system. It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's an alien craft. I believe this is 100% alien. Now, none of your semi-skimmed alien bullcrap. This is 100% alien. Says it is footage was recorded from the ISS and therefore constitutes undeniable evidence of alien life. He said, we've seen lots of alien craft lately released by the U.S. military. It's getting in the news. People are shrugging it off like it doesn't matter. You can't ignore the facts that are right in front of us. And this was recorded by the multi-billion-dollar camera on the International Space Station. That makes it undeniable evidence recorded by NASA themselves on live cam. Sounds really cool. We got to check out that footage. All right. A mom has been left feeling terrified after posing for a photo with friends in her block of flats over in the UK, only for the group to spot an extra figure in the lineup when looking back at the picture. Yes. Rebecca Glasborough said she has been suffering sleepless nights after the group of 7 huddled together for a photo as they enjoyed drinks back in October. But the picture appears to show a haunting figure that was also in the room with them. Oh my God, looking at the photo, this is horrific. Horrific if it's real. Doesn't seem to be any legs there either. Could be a cutout or something. Anyways, so a few friends believe that they could see a ghostly woman with long brown hair, and Rebecca says she is now convinced the block of flats is haunted after hearing a rumor that someone had died in the bath of a flat where the photo was taken. The group can be seen raising a glass, smiling for the picture, but behind them appears to be a pale figure seemingly with distinguishable features of eyes, nose, and mouth for our YouTube people. Let's see if we can actually share this so you guys could see it. Hold on a second here. There we go. Let's go like that. Let's share that. You can see right in the back there seems to be a figure right by the window. Now that's kind of freaky. That is really right here. Right there, right by the window, underneath the window shade. Anyways, so when we continue on here with the news, let's remove that. Yeah, just kind of eerie that they don't know what it is. They don't know who the person is. It literally looks like a human, but it might not be. But if they're claiming it is, maybe she's got some ghosts. Maybe she does. We'll find out. We'll find out. All right, moving on. Threats by menacing clowns led D.C. police to surveil online accounts. Yeah, vague threats from social media users dressed as menacing clowns in 2016 led to an intense police monitoring of their social media accounts and an effort to identify those who may be responsible. The threats, which came in as the lead-up to Halloween from accounts billing themselves as killer clowns under usernames like Snappy the Clown and DMV Clowns, led to intensive surveillance of those participating in the clown craze, which triggered a wave of clown-themed media coverage. Clown sightings were eventually recorded all over the U.S. in 2016, having apparently begun in Greenville, South Carolina, before spreading across the South, then across the nation. Happened up here in Canada, too. If I would have seen that, honestly, I would have just grabbed a baseball bat and beat them. Why not? The clowns scare me. Anyways, they were tracking these guys. Homeland Security was all over it because they don't like clowns either. What kind of jerk does that? Seriously. I think some of the best videos on YouTube were literally of these guys out there who were, be driving around, and all of a sudden the clown would be walking up to their vehicle and make them kind of, pull on over. And then you'd see the guy get out with like a rake or a shovel or a pitchfork and start, terrorizing the clown back. And then you'd see the clown. No, stop it. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, you deserved it because you dressed up like an idiot clown. Let's just be honest. Nobody likes clowns. Not even the good ones. I don't like them. No, scare the daylights out of me, to be absolutely blunt. A few weeks ago, while jumping logs and crossing creeks near northern BC's Nechako River, hiker Cynthia Andal spotted something that stopped her in her tracks. I've seen those. Step on those. Anyways, hidden in the underbrush, she found about 24 fist-size brown leathery blobs filled with black gel. I just stood there in awe for a few moments. I'm thinking, this is like a witch's cauldron. I always wanted to see this for years, Andal stated. It's not even like it's real. Oh, shit. That was in Isle Pierre, west of Prince George. Okay. So that's about 4 hours north of me, maybe 5 hours north of me. Anyways, it's not even real. You sort of see it, and it's not like something that should be there. So what is it? Rumors of the fungus have floated all around the northern wilderness community for decades, but the photos by Andal making it onto social media call it an incredibly rare fungus. Microbial ecologist Michael Preston says, if you look at the BC species distribution maps, it's not even on the map. There is no official reported documentation of this mushroom here. Preston, who teaches at the University of Northern BC, says witch's cauldron is typically found in Northern Europe, where it is threatened and has been declining in recent decades. The mushrooms sprout from the forest floor after the spring thaw, when the non-toxic but inedible globes are engorged by the southern availability of water. They're actually kind of cool. I'd actually like to see some of those. And you know what? Let's see where we are here. I think we got time for one more. Maybe. Yeah, we got to get to this one because Shirky Poo did this. Move over, petrol. Australia finally has its first poo-powered SUV. You heard me correctly. Appropriately dubbed the number 2, the Hyundai Kona runs by electricity generated by mass human waste. In a bizarre look into the future, the power used to charge the SUV is produced when water from a Brisbane wastewater treatment plant is fed into a giant machine that generates electricity and powers on poo. The number 2 vehicle relies on the excrement of 1,000 people to generate enough power for a single charge, which lasts an impressive 450 kilometers. On average, one person's daily habits could generate enough electricity to make the car travel around 450 meters, Urban Utilities spokesperson Anna Hartley said. By harnessing the power of poo, we are reducing our operating costs and helping the environment by using a more sustainable energy. So it's a win-win. Yes, poo power is alive and well. Poo power. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and then Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. How are you handling the latest UFO drama being played out before the June 25th report? Start off with Aussie Mark. To be honest, over the moon to see UFOs being openly talked about and taken seriously. Julien, probably going to take more time. Mark Miller, feeling sad for the people, really expecting to hear the truth. If documents from World War II are still top secret, why would the U.S. government reveal information that would turn the entire world upside down? Curious Anthrop, I think it'll be an ugly fight, but we'll get there eventually. Media, according to Haunted History BC, always made it sound like only backwoods people saw these things. Haven't seen one yet, but always believe they are out there. The fact the military and political figures are saying they saw them is only surprising in that they are finally coming forward. About time. Ronnie, I don't get anxious or excited about it. I know what I know, and I know what I've seen and experienced. I don't need some wishy-washy government agency to tell me what and when to believe something. They have been dragging their feet about this from the beginning. John, just taking it in, snorting out what looks to be the total BS, not getting overly excited, and just keeping my expectations low. God of Thunder, sitting with my popcorn at the ready, waiting for the fallout. Captain Gnosis, I just shake my head slowly. Linda, depends on the circus ring. I only pay attention to one. 13 Ballads gets the final one tonight. Apparently on June 25th, 1876, Custer got wiped out. So not looking forward to June 25th, 2021. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. We will do it all again tomorrow night. So make sure you check us out on my Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the abbreviated SOR Newswire. All of you for participating in the Magic 8 Ball. And to Melinda Leslie and Daniel Sheehan for coming on Talking Disclosure 2021. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Facebook, and the Snarkettes and Derek at Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, just ask Roy. SuperQuest knows what to do. Good night. It was a good show. Good show. Uh-huh. I'll just go down here and do it here. What the hell? Shut down that. Hey, Super Quest, how you doing, buddy? Chillin' Villain, what's happening? Thank you for joining us. Who else came in late? Malu, how you doing, buddy? Bombshell Bomber. Raspberries. She loves us all. Loves. Loves us. Oh, FAP totally gets poo transplants, for sure. For sure. Hey, gorgeous Jennifer P., what's happening? Bigfoot, big fat creeps loving poo power. There she is, the lovely and talented Wagon Breadth 11.3. I don't know what the 11.3 means. The Queen Bee, yes, they still are finding feet. I still think there's a serial killer. They'll never admit it, but I think there is. Don't forget Super Blood Moon tomorrow night. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible, Fap. How do you put something like that on the screen? No lightning right now. Seems to have moved on. That's forest fire type lightning. That's what scares me. Hey, there's Melinda Leslie in the chat room. The lovely and talented Melinda Leslie. How are you? All right, let's download this show. Then let's go in here. Edit. Save. Mr. Cowley. Welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. Love that song. One of these days, I'm going to finish the lyrics. Copy, paste. Hey, Dirt Road, how you doing? I know. I'm sorry, Mr. Catfish. But the main thing is you look good tonight. Let's just be honest. You look good tonight. Where's the beginning of my show here? No, that ain't it. I think it's right there. That looks like it. Yeah, that looks like it. Yeah, good enough. God bless him for donating the SOR FAP. Thanks, Noble Patrick. Oh, taking my watch off. Hey, Fapster. Show you the greatest shirt ever. Look at that, buddy. Beautiful. Beautiful. You don't get much nicer than that. Okay, there's the start of number 3. Cut that out. 20 should be up there. Oh, Catfish, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Oh, don't do that. Let's just go here. File, save as SOR3. I'm really surprised we didn't lose power tonight. Really surprised. I'm hungry. Vinny, you are sick. You are sick. Vinny, you look like a poor man's Cheech Marin. And you're as funny as Ray Romano. That's a bad combination. You know what bugs me about Fap is he's probably one of these guys who wears his ball cap like this. That's the way Fap wears his ball cap. Nobody likes that. Wear your ball cap properly. It's true. Totally true. Close that, close that, close that. That can be closed. I'm trying to catch up on my windows here. There's so many windows open. Oh yeah, Dave already had to update his Game Boy today. It's terrible. It's terrible. Never had a Game Boy. Remember the 2-inch by 2-inch screen? My God. Don't know the final total yet. Melinda. Excuse me. Dirty filth. You probably got an old Mad Magazine board game. That was fun. My favorite board game of all time is this. It was like in the 1980s, and it used this computer on it. It was called Stop Thief. Loved that game. Loved that game. Why did it only do 2 files? I gotta redo this entire friggin' thing again. Remove. Go like this. Get rid of this. Open output folder. Get rid of that. Let's try this again. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Convert. There we go. Just so anybody knows, Vinny does wear on a daily basis Nickelback t-shirts. And I'm proud of him for it. Proud of you, Vin. I'm tired. Oh, this thing's taking longer than usual. That's always very nice. My eyes, my eyes are so heavy right now. Good night, Sinister. Thurston Howell the Third. Which reminds me. Oh, goodness, shit. Oh, well. Oh, yeah, I had to steal that piece. Do that one, too. Just steal that off of there. If this guitar is done, put that on the new one. Cool. Come on, everybody. Holy cow, this out of tune. I gotta get this one fixed. This neck doesn't feel too bad. I like this guitar. Hopefully you can fix this one. It's a little bent there, though. Yeah, I'm gonna see if you can fix this one. Drop that by his house tomorrow. Oh, we'll just put it up. Lockbeard, what's going on? Hi, gorgeous Katie. Hey, I'm learning. Be nice. I'm learning. Not nice to me. I gotta get that one fixed. And this is my daughter's. These two are gonna. Yeah, I got another red one, but my son keeps on stealing all my red guitars. Got two of them now. I am tired. Look how low my eyes are. Holy cow. Fabster is still waiting for the Air Supply reunion. So he could go to the local mall and watch them play. All right, it's that time of night again where we're going to call it the night here on the show. I got to get to bed. I am so tired. Before I do, I want to say a big thank you to Mike Fapster, Sinister, Cat Chaser, Patrick, Catfish times 5, Beverly times 2, Andrew, Marty, Catfish again, D Queen B, Catfish again, Science Bob, Beverly again, Philip, Mike, Catfish again, Big Pickle, Catfish again, Third Phase of Moon, Gorgeous Emily Bigelow, Liz, and Philip for the amazing super chats tonight. Big thank you to all of you who are new subscribers and followed us on Twitter. We had a bunch of Twitter followers during the show, which was great. Thank you to all the veterans out there who tune us in on a nightly basis. And thank you to all of our regular listeners who are tuning on in. Really appreciate all of you. We'll see you tomorrow night. Luis Elizondo, Hour 1, Hour 2, Sean Cahill. We're going to have a great show tomorrow night. Take care. We'll see you then.